approach, Sky 6316, 8.8 for 6,000.
Sky 6316, North Yelp approach, still maintain 3,000, I'm 1 for the right.
3,000, Sky 6316.
Redwood 811, still maintain 4,000, airport open the clock, 1.
We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again. We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again.
6 Roman Terrafly runway heading, runway 5. Let's take off.
Check!
And we're ready for takeoff. Sit back, relax. It's time to travel with Cosmic Passport. Spaced Out Weekend presents Elizabeth Anglin's Cosmic Passport, a 1-hour warm-up of news, stories, thoughts, and ideas to captivate your mind. You can follow us at spacedoutradio.com.
Now 20 years have passed us by, and we look back and count the time, burning like the summer sun when the world was young. Silently staring from the ground, and 7 trumpets wait to sound.
And now, here's Our Lady of Flight, Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio Weekend. This is your host before the host, Elizabeth Anglin, and I am here tonight to talk to you before James Tyson comes on with the Haunted Housewives, who are going to be talking about going to places where there's a paranormal mess, or a mess of ghosts, or a mess of scary, freaky paranormal activity, or just stuff. Tonight, James will be on in about an hour with these wonderful ladies who have a lot of experience with the paranormal. Until then, you get to listen to me talk, and my computer just crashed. There was stuff I was going to talk about. And I tried to get my internet back up, and I'm on some Japanese site. So let me tell you what's going on in Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio Weekend. During the week, we have spacedoutradio.com, which has Dave Scott on, doing all sorts of wonderful shows. If you like our shows, if you like Dave Scott, if you like James Tyson, you can join Spaced Out Radio's Space Travelers group, and in that we are going to start with a newsletter, which I will be editing very shortly. We have a new website coming up, and you'll get some guest articles, some articles from us here at the Spaced Out Radio Network family, and it should be good fun. And there's also swag. We're going to be giving away books from the authors that we have on, as well as some other goodies. So if you go to spacedoutradio.com, do not walk, run to spacedoutradio.com and sign up to become a Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. You also get to go into the special chat room on Facebook if you are a Spaced Out Radio Space Traveler. Check it out. We have the funniest, most interesting people in that chat room. That's my favorite chat room. So please check it out if you're interested in Spaced Out Radio, whether you're listening to this live or listening to this after. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit more about Bigfoot. We were talking about the news of the week, the paranormal news of the week last night, and how Bigfoot was spotted or potentially spotted by a drone in Idaho in the neighborhood of someone I know who is a Bigfoot communicator, who was one of my animal communication students, and running across a field. Now, it's hard to tell because the drone was up really high whether or not Bigfoot was actually what the picture was of, but whatever this creature was, it seemed to be walking fairly upright and going very fast. Now, that doesn't mean that, you couldn't have somebody with an exotic animal let it go, or let go an ape, because this did look awfully big, or something else, but there was an interesting picture. So we were talking about that, James and I, last night, and Galen asked the question, has there ever been any writing about Bigfoot being created by aliens, or being genetically engineered by aliens? So I went through, because I said, well, the only thing I know about aliens and Bigfoot is that I was told to look up the story of Gilgamesh by my alien friends, and this was just around the time, just before the time that I had my first Yeti communication. And so I went back through the tablets of the story of Gilgamesh today, and I read, and basically it does say on the tablets that the wild man was created by gods in order to kind of bring down this kind of rampant, crazy, wild man, power-hungry king named Gilgamesh. So this is a Mesopotamian story, and it's supposedly about a king who lived in 2100 to 2500 BC. There are different names that they called him before they were able to really, Western people were able to really read these tablets. They called him one thing, and then they called him Gilgamesh, and then they figured out that the name was really Bilgamesh. But he was a king who did things that kings do, which is basically take all the men, make them build stuff so they're really tired, whip a lot of people, be very greedy. And then the worst thing that he was doing was prima nocta. So anybody who got married, he reserved the right to sleep with their wives on the night of their wedding, which everybody hated and nobody liked. Now, at the same time, the gods were looking down on this. Now, who are the gods? Well, what's interesting about Gilgamesh is that his story roughly parallels Hercules in that he is half man, half god, and he's very big and he's very strong. But the gods are different gods than you get in the sort of Greek and Roman tales of Hercules. And you're never quite sure which gods are the ones who create Enkidu. But Enkidu supposedly is created to bring Gilgamesh back down to earth, to make him stop being such a jerk. And Enkidu is a hairy man. He's a wild man. He lives in the woods with the critters. He has a sense of social justice, and he has a sense of love and protection for his wildland living critter friends. And so what ends up happening, even though he is created by the gods for the purpose of bringing Gilgamesh down, supposedly these are gods who can look forward into time. Interesting. We were talking about aliens being able to do that. What happens is Gilgamesh becomes trapped in a trap by a trapper whose traps he has been, I know, he has been letting the animals out of. So there is a trapper, can't remember his name, my internet crashed, I think it's Shamat or something, and this trapper Shamat is, and forgive me if I'm wrong, he's mad because this wild man, this furry, big wild man has been cutting into his livelihood by releasing all the animals from the traps. So what he does is he traps Enkidu, and one of the ways he does it is to get a prostitute. So basically he lures him with a wanton woman, and he basically non-hairy man-izes him, teaches him how to eat food that non-Bigfooty wild man people eat, and has the prostitute use her wiles on him for about a week, and then sets him about basically taking care of his camp, being his guardian for his camp. Again, we see Bigfoot in the role as protector, as guardian. And throughout this story, there is a thread that Enkidu, the wild man, is a protector, that he basically wants to protect people. He wants to protect critters, animals, and people. And what happens, the way that he meets Gilgamesh, is that he finds out that Gilgamesh the king has been basically interfering with the love lives of all the people in his country by sleeping with brides on their wedding nights. And Enkidu just thinks this is wrong. This is terrible. How can you do that? How can people have families? How can people not have trauma in their families? So he goes to confront Gilgamesh, and they fight. And of course, Enkidu is thinking, this will be easy. I'm a big, hairy, wild dude. I shouldn't have any problem with that at all. But he doesn't realize that Gilgamesh is half of a god. And Gilgamesh wins. But in the process of their fight, they really begin to respect each other. And they become great friends, and they go on incredible adventures together. And Enkidu becomes something of the protector of Gilgamesh, who gets himself in trouble a lot because he's willing to challenge other gods, anybody, god of the mountain, god of the forest, god of the underworld, much like Hercules. And toward the end of the tablets that we have, what we find is Gilgamesh going to the underworld because Enkidu has died. So he is so, he's such a good friend of his wild man, hairy mountain wild friend, that he goes to the underworld to try to get him back after he has died. And all sorts of things happen in the underworld, including the first written ideas that we find for zombies. That, if Gilgamesh really screws up, he can let the dead out and they would run across the earth and eat people. That's part of the story. So we have this whole background for zombies in that story. And also the idea that, non-hairy people and big wild hairy people can be friends and really care about each other, but that Enkidu is by and large a very loyal friend and protector once that friendship has been earned. So there was, answering Galen's question from last night, in the story of Gilgamesh, there is this idea that Bigfoot was created by the gods. Now, who are the gods? In the story, they don't say which gods where, but Bigfoot was created by the gods to help bring this power-hungry tyrant of a king back down to earth, back down to some sort of sanity. And I think I can only hope that for those of us who are doing Bigfoot communication now, or those of us who are potentially going out to Washington to Kiwani and Kelly Lapsaritis' event in the fall, that we are listening to Bigfoot in terms of coming back down to earth and really learning to be protectors of our fellow sentient beings and fellow critters and the wild spaces and the earth itself, and not being power hungry and interested in just getting more and more and more for ourselves. So I think it's a timely story for now. If you go on Wikipedia, you can read what each tablet says. These were written on stone tablets. The story is on stone tablets. And it has been, like most things from the past, from, 4,000 plus years ago, it's been interpreted different ways, but there's a fairly good interpretation of the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu that's out there on the web. Check it out. It's really, really interesting. So that's what I was looking at today. And then I said I wanted to talk about time travel. So moving into that, because, part of this was brought about, originally I was going to talk about aliens and time travel. And I just asked my friend before I got on the air, my friend who is an alien, I telepathically connected, and I said, so dude, what do you think about time travel? And he said, really simply, he said, well, going forward is a lot harder than going backwards. Like, it's really hard to go forward. And he was talking about physical time travel. And now there's a background to this. I've had other conversations about time travel. If you've read the book Abduction by Dr. Johnny Mack, I am Anne, who's on page 173. If you've got it on a shelf, pull it out. You can see what we were talking about. So way back when I was just a little youngster person, a quarter century ago, teeny tiny youngster person, I was under regression, one of my first few regressions, and what had happened was that the aliens had worked on my brain with light. And what they were doing with this light was they were causing more neurons to fire in my brain and causing new neuronal pathways in my brain. And the purpose of that was so that I could consciously see through dimensions, or see through many different dimensions, but also do some consciousness time travel mentally, not physically, but mentally. So, I'm in this regression, and I've got this big dome thing on my head that's and I'm not moving very much. It's kind of like being in the MRI where you really don't want to move much when they're working on you because you don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not moving really. Got this big dome thing on my head. I can feel my brain is just electrified with energy and light, and I'm seeing all sorts of visions and time frames and all sorts of stuff. And I'm in a regression remembering that, and Dr. Mack is sitting in the room, and he's going, well, why are they doing this? He's like, okay, so where are you? So I described to him where I am, and he's like, okay, well, why are they doing this? And then I'm hearing the aliens, and this has got to be telepathic, sort of bilocated, saying, well, they're doing it for the purposes of time traveling through consciousness. And they're telling me that what they want me to be able to do is to bring all times to the same place. All right, sounds crazy, right? How are you going to bring all times to the same place? But it seems really, really important. And I was one of the first abductees, so of course, Dr. Mack is listening to this, and he's going, okay, I'll write this down. But as he works with more and more abductees, he finds that more and more abductees are having these experiences of consciously time traveling, hopping into other bodies that are theirs in past lives, and having experiences in other places at other times, but it's their consciousness is going, not their physicality. And so there is something about processing all of these different lifetimes that the aliens find important and very, very interesting. But there's also a machine that they have, which is, I call it sort of like a quantum time stream device, where they can basically look at the time stream and read the probability field going forward, and then they can see things that have happened in the past in this time stream. So there's got to be some way of understanding that worldview first before you actually use such a machine yourself as a human being. And there has to be some understanding that your consciousness doesn't have a problem going back into time or basically hopping around through different time zones. So that was kind of where we were going with page 173 in the book Abduction. I'm Ann. Hello. But the reason it came up again this week, that I was really thinking about it this week, is that I went to this incredible art installation in Santa Fe called Meow Wolf. Now, who makes something called Meow Wolf? Well, these crazy artists who work with George R.R. Martin, who does Game of Thrones, have created this interactive, incredible, trippy art installation that has to do with interdimensional travel, time travel, schizophrenia. Let's see what else is involved. A family that disappears, so there's a mystery involved. A New Age guru named Lucius Selig, who has figured out ways to travel. He has created these portals so that he can travel interdimensionally and through time. And we're not sure, he might just be crazy. And in this 20,000 square foot space, they've developed all these little portals that are coming out the sides of this house where this guy Lucius and his extended family lived. And some of the portals are just mental spaces, like out of the kids' rooms. They're just a mental space that the kid was living in, one of the children was living in. But other portals are actual spaces to other worlds. And some of the worlds are fantastically fun and trippy, and there's like lasers and music, but throughout the whole installation, you're supposed to pick things up and touch them, and there are journals and notebooks and newspapers and letters from school, and they all give clues to what was going on with this family, but they don't. Not any one of the letters, the journals, the computer programs you can get on computers, a computer in a bedroom and read through the computer files. All you know is that somebody has been interdimensionally traveling, somebody else has been time traveling, somebody's schizophrenic, and that these people were not the first generation of interdimensional travelers in that particular family, but they all disappear. So if you're ever in Santa Fe, I would say if you just want to bend your brain, go to Meow Wolf. Go to that. It's called the House of Eternal Return. There are some things online about it, and you can kind of get the trippy feel. Now, for me as a person who interviews people working in the paranormal, and people who have books out, this master, quote unquote, Lucius Selig, who is a fictional character, but is it's kind of like, oh yeah, we know him, we've interviewed him, you know. But the fun thing about it is that you get to see in his little video podcast that his vidcast that he's actually going nuts, and he's drinking, and things are getting worse and worse, and he's not really in much control of himself as time goes on, and more of these portals open up, and things become weirder and weirder. So I guess you kind of have to maybe be a paranormal show host, or you have to really like a good, challenging mystery, which I think we all do, which is why we listen to Spaced Out Radio and Spaced Out Radio Weekend. It's mysterious. We don't know how it works. Are we ever going to figure it out? It's unclear. So, that being said, getting back to time traveling, I was just going to tell you a few things. One, time travel is very, very possible with your brain. Parallel reality traveling, which is also part of this installation at Meow Wolf, but in the real world, there is a thing called quantum jumping. You can do it with your brain. My experience of it is that it's very twisty. It kind of makes me get vertigo, and I kind of feel a little weird afterward, but it's possible to do. Interdimensional travel is possible if you have a target of where you want to go, or somebody is guiding you someplace like an alien, is possible. Of course, astral travel we know is possible. So there are all sorts of places you can go with your brain. But the funny thing that my friend who is the alien engineer said about time travel into the future is he just brought up inertia right away. He said, well, the problem with time traveling into the future is that it's almost like the wave of inertia is like you're trying to push water up the side of your bathtub, and eventually it's going to slosh back down on itself. And so you can't really get up enough velocity and momentum to overcome the inertia of mass getting greater and time getting slower to get that wave of water up over the side of your bathtub, unless you had a tremendous amount of energy. You know, like if you cannonball into your bathtub, then of course your water will slosh over the sides. But most of us want to stay in one piece when we cross that threshold into the future instead of going splat all over the place. So he basically said time travel into the future physically, not so great. Time travel into the past, a lot easier. And because there isn't as much of an inertial wall from the past as there is into the future. Didn't get to ask him why, because I realized it was almost time for the show to come on. The next thing is that I had another conversation with a friend of mine who is an astronomer who was also an abductee, who's now in spirit, and he said it's easier to travel between dimensions and you can go to a future point in a dimension or a time in the past in a dimension. If you are not originating from the dimension that you are traveling to, you may end up in a sort of anachronistic time space in that dimension, one that does not parallel your own time zone. And that's very easy to do. And he says aliens have been doing that for years. Now, he didn't say, have they been using interdimensional travel as sort of the loophole in time travel. He just said aliens have been doing that for years. So that was another fun thing about this crazy Meow Wolf art installation, is that as you're reading through I was reading through a newspaper in the house, and they were talking about these parallel reality travelers who came from a parallel Earth, and they actually were in the parallel Earth about 120 years in the future, and the Earth was being destroyed by climate change, and they really didn't have anywhere to go. And so when they figured out how to jump between parallel realities, they jumped back into the 1970s. And then you think about it, it's like, well, this house can't be even in our reality because, you know, we didn't have parallel reality time travelers jumping back into, you know, that we know of, jumping into the 1970s. But the way that this article was written at the same time as we're having right now is that what happened is everybody was aware that these people had come from a parallel reality, and they had brought what were called these friendly space owls with them, and every kid, instead of having a teddy bear, had a friendly space owl. It's trippy. You almost want to do mushrooms while you're there. Oops, I don't know. Are they going to cut us off for that? But you also want your brain together so you can think about it, just like all this other stuff that we talk about. And that being said, I got to take a break because I don't have any mushrooms. I'm taxing my brain, and we got commercials. Oh, yeah, and you know, James is like the ghost in the machine.
Hi
I can
there.
hear
This
him.
is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies? Bigfoot? Dogmen? Trolls? Goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Spaced Out Weekend and Cosmic Passport can be heard every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. We're always 3 hours a night, 7 days a week. And you can listen to Spaced Out Radio Monday through Friday as well. If you would like to advertise with us, go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, click on the Advertise With Us banner, and find the package that best suits your advertising needs.
And we're back with Spaced Out Radio Weekend. This is your host before the host, Elizabeth Anglin. If you're interested in the work that I do and the research I've done and whatever I'm doing, you can find me on elizabethanglin.com. I have a link through to my book, Experience Memoirs of an Abducted Childhood. And, every day I'm doing something either with animal communication, Akashic Records, talking to spirit, talking to ghosts, other sorts of paranormally, sometimes Bigfooty, sometimes alien-y stuff. And I'm here now with James Tyson, who I'm going to drag in kicking and screaming to tell me about, whatever he wants to talk about. But basically, what about those haunted housewives that are coming up? What's up with them?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
No, I'm kidding. They're actually pretty cool. There are a couple of authors. They've been doing this for a while. They host different events. They had an event on Friday in Plainsville at a train depot. And Willoughby, Ohio is next Friday at the Willoughby Coal. And if you go to their website, thehauntedhousewives.com, and go to events, you can actually, and if you're in that area of Ohio, you can register for that. And they have a number of events. In July 29th, it's funny the way they've written it here. I've been going to talk to them about this. From July 29th to 20th, they have a private investigation out in Gettysburg. So, speaking of time travel, they'll be starting on the 29th and traveling back to the 20th. So
see, Yeah, see, they're cool. That's awesome because they're not going into the future. They're not hitting that inertial barrier in order to do their paranormal research. They know. You can tell that they know they can go back. And housewives often need to do that because, you know, with kids and everything, you don't get a lot of time. So you may have to go back and then redo it. I like them. Yeah.
Well, they bounce around all over the place. They are, you know, they're more... You know, they're the kind of people I like. They're the history buffs. They are kind of digging into the history behind a location as well as just showing up and doing a paranormal investigation. But they actually drill down. With some of the places they've been to, you know, I'll talk about Ohio because that's where a lot of them, I shouldn't say, Willoughby, Kathy Weber, who is one of the housewives, haunted housewives, she lives in Ohio, and that's kind of her base there. And they've done the Lake County History Center and Museum, Ohio State Reformatory, some mansions, the Zord Tavern, Mansfield Seminary, you know, down to from private clubs to grain elevators. They've been bouncing all over the place, and some of the more, you know, the kind of places that you may see on some of the paranormal television shows, the Red Onion Saloon in Arkansas, the Lepp Mansion in Missouri, Culver City Hotel, and the famous Queen Mary in L.A. You know, they are bouncing around right across the country. I guess when the time allows, they will head out and get these things done. Now, Teresa, I don't want to say Argy, because Argy, the original haunted housewife, is an experienced lecturer. She's an educator, researcher, and paranormal investigator, and has like a ton of years dealing with spirits and ghosts. And this is what I want to talk to her about. When did this start? She's worked beside some of the most well-known experts in the paranormal field, or most well-known people who call themselves experts in the paranormal field.
Right.
Teresa is also an author. She's written a book called America's Most Haunted, and she wrote that a couple of years ago, and I want to talk to her about how much fun that was. Now, Kathy Weber, she lives in Willoughby, Ohio, and she operates a thing called the Willoughby Ghost Walk. Now, it's like, you imagine Willoughby is an older place, like a really cool place in Ohio, and they go through the historic district in downtown Willoughby, and takes you on a bit of a ghost walk through there. She's written a book called Haunted Willoughby, and a few years back, and we're going to be digging into that too. And she is an experienced paranormal investigator. She is a speaker.
James, okay,
yes.
Like, didn't you go out on a paranormal investigation this past week?
I did.
How was that? I mean, I'm going to listen to your show, but you know, you're talking. Yeah, okay. These guys are cool, but what did you do? What happened on your thing? Did we get to talk about that?
I haven't discussed it with the people I was working with, but it's Chronicles of the Unknown. It's a television series being filmed up here by the other half of the Canadian Paranormal Society, which is a group I belong to. And I saw a lot of interesting things and heard some interesting things. And this week I'm going through the recordings that I have and preparing them for the the primary investigators who were on it. But we were up in on the gold mining trail up through British Columbia in an old town that was built in the late 1800s, and went through some of the buildings that still exist there. And there was some interesting feelings, and and again, I can't, because I don't have permission to get into it. I've kind of
but you did go do it.
I did.
You did go.
I can tell you that somebody threw a rock at us inside the lower part of a building, which is across from a cemetery, an old cemetery, but actually it's an old and a new. They still use it. And so the bottom of this replica building of a Chinese Tong building, which the society would have been upstairs in it, was very private, and downstairs was more of the public entrance area. But the downstairs is used as a an area for funeral services. So there was pews and a little podium, and completely sealed off. The windows are all shut, the doors are all shut, and we're having, doing our EVP session, and something from the other side tossed a rock at one of the people who were there.
So you basically, and it might have even been an apportation, you don't know.
What is that?
Well, an apportation is when a spirit causes something physical to manifest in our reality. I mean, the spirit might not necessarily pick up a rock and throw it at you. Mm-hmm. It might actually manifest a rock and throw it at you.
So we should have kept the rock? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you should have kept the rock.
Oh, for 5,
absolutely.
6. Really? Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you would want to see, was this a rock of the type of the place? Is it something you could have picked that could have been picked up outside, or was it something from, there's a possibility for future study of that particular rock. Was it, was the idea, is it picked up and tossed, or was it apported? Which is, it just shows up in your reality and bonks somebody on the head. So deep trance mediums do what's called apportation, which is having items, rocks, statues, flowers, incense, wine, show up in sitting rooms. That's part of what they do. Now, there were a lot of charlatans early in the spirit mediumship community that were found out, but not every one of the deep trance mediums who does this is a charlatan, and it's possible to do. So were you with... Okay, well, you weren't with Derek, were you? Do I get to know who you were? Oh, yeah.
I was with Derek White Skycloud, Glenn Ferguson, Mike Morin, and Troy Ryan. We were all in this place. They're all parts of the Chronicles of the Unknown. They just kind of had me tag around. But it was definitely a rock. It hit behind me, not hit me or the pew I was sitting on, but it hit on the floor between the pew and that I was sitting on, and the pew behind me, and then kind of slid towards the guy that they were picking on. Like one of the guys, Mike, does not like bats. And now he's he worked animal control, and a bat will spit at you. Yeah. So he had to grab a bat once, and it spit in his eye. So there he had to wait for all the tests to come back to see if there was a rabbit or not. Yeah. So he's freaking out, and he had a bad experience with bats. Does not like them, and there were bats in the top of this building area. They were flying around. There were no bats where we were, and I'll go back. This is after midnight, and there's a cemetery across the street. And Mike had to go pee. So he thought, well, if I pee towards a cemetery, that would probably be, disrespectful. So he turned a little bit towards the building, and he relieved himself, at which time he heard somebody yelling and screaming at him, and he looked up and he saw something moving in the top floor of the building. So, of course, we all go, I'm running in there and with the other guys, and we're kind of clearing it like you'd clear a house when you're a policeman, making sure nobody was in there. There was only one way in and one way out, and we came in the one way out and in. So there was nobody in there, but he was peeing himself because something got mad at him for peeing towards the location. Yeah. So they're picking on him now. He's the one they threw the rock towards. But before that, he happened to say out loud, two of the guys were upstairs, and they say, bats flying all over the place. And Mike just was downstairs. He goes, I hate bats. They bug me. Next thing you know, he's got bats dive bombing him. Only him. They weren't bugging anywhere else. But they started doing that right after he said that.
Well, do you know how you get bats to dive bomb people? I mean, everybody in Michigan knows how you get bats to dive bomb. Every kid who grew up in Michigan. I don't know about the other parts of the Midwest. You throw rocks in the general direction of the person when bats are around, and the bats will go after the rocks, and then they'll dive bomb the person. So if you had astral rocks or you had apportated rocks that somebody was throwing in his direction, the bats would begin to dive bomb him if they were picking up on, the manifestation of a rock, because the rock looks like a pretty darn big bug.
Yeah, these bats
eat.
are coming down before the rock incident. In fact, the bats were gone after the rock was thrown.
After the rock was thrown, okay, but trickster spirit. Me and being in a physical body and having been a trickster spirit as a child and subjected to many trickster children, that's what we used to do to each other before we were afraid of rabies. We would throw rocks at each other when the bats were out. So they would. I got a bat stuck in my hair. It was,
what?
They
don't.
Yeah.
You're the one that urban myth
They
started
do
with.
that. No. I got a bat stuck in my hair because my neighbor had such a good arm that the rock that she threw toward the bat that was relatively over me, the rock came down toward my head. It hit me, and then the bat was right after, and it went into my head. And it wasn't stuck there for a long time, but it was like, holy crap, there's a bat on my head.
In your belfry. I would go to a place out here just before the bats actually migrate in the fall, and it's an old mansion area, summer home, and it has horse stables, and the bats just at dusk they start spinning in the horse stables because they're empty, and then they fly down the hall in the horse stables out the door and they go feeding. Well, it's cool. You stand in there, you stand in it and watch them come at you, and there's hundreds of bats flying straight at your face, and it's amazing. You only can feel the breeze of them going by because they're so agile going around you. It's great. That's kind of freaky.
If they're not hunting, they're not going to get stuck in your hair. I mean, they're not going to go for you. It's more like, it's like a herd of horses. Like if you stand up straight in a herd of horses, they'll part and go around you. Don't try this at home, people who don't read horse language. But for people who can deal with that, if you just stand up straight, they'll go around you. It's same with bats. But if they're hunting something and they get discombobulated or confused or get really close,
or somebody has
or have rabies. This is back in the 70s before we worried about stuff like that, and we still lived. Anyway, I'm dating my age, but well, that is cool. Yeah, you could. Nobody kept that rock? Did you even find it?
Not that I'm aware of. No. Well, I picked it up and I think I threw it onto it looked like just a piece of quartz that you'd find out there.
Yeah. Well,
with a diamond in the middle of it and a glowing ruby eye. Okay.
Yes, eye of something or other. You could become Master James Tyson.
You're drunk.
I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah. It's
that Master James Tyson. Okay, so that's cool that you talked about that when you weren't supposed to, and that you went out and did that paranormal thing. That's excellent. You came back, you lived?
More or less, yes.
Glad. You're not a zombie?
I am not the zombie you think I am.
You have not eaten anybody after you come back? Okay, good.
Not completely, no. Oh.
Oh, shoot.
Hold on a second. I have a caller calling in. Stand by.
Okay. Well, it's funny. So listeners, I'm just going to tell you, it's funny what people freak out by. So, we're talking about bats, which will freak out some people. I'm talking about aliens, which will freak out some people. So, and as some of you know, I do have a little gallery / spiritualist shop, and I was doing some display reorganization today, and a lady walks in, and I have art and I have clothing, and I'm getting more and more stock, and it's not all paranormal, metaphysical themed. There's fine art and there's fine art photography, and there's upcycled clothing and artisan made handbags. And anyway, I'm redoing my display cases, and I had some tarot cards in my display cases. Not that I read tarot cards now, but I did some today for people who were thinking about buying them. I'm like, well, let's see what deck suits you, because tarot cards are a good way to start doing intuitive stuff, and I found them very helpful when I was a little itty-bitty youngster. So I had them out, and I had just sold a Herman Hengel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had left out, normally I just leave out angel cards, because I figure people won't freak out by seeing angel cards out or rooming cards. But I had left out a sort of spread of Herman Hengel, not for anybody in particular, maybe just myself. This poor lady walks in and she sees the Hengel spread on the thing, and she's like, you just see her kind of get all discombobulated, and she turns around and walks out like it's the scariest thing in the world, that she just looked at cards that were turned up, and I'm like, oh really? Are you kidding me? So it's funny, not people here on Spaced Out Radio per se, but man, what will freak people out?
So the poor lady comes in to buy some scented scented soap and
candles. And look at some
there's
art.
A witch here. I think I'll leave.
Exactly. Oh my God, it's tarot cards, and I just looked at them. Oh my God.
That's kind of funny. It's and how's business been since then?
Oh, it was fine today.
Okay, good.
But it was just funny. It was like, it's people have a lot of superstition about, what will happen to you if you use your brain, or use your intuition for anything. Oh my gosh, using your intuition is all sorts of evil. It's not. It's your intuition. We're all born with it. It's here to, be part of our stuff. So.
Sure it is, Elizabeth. Sure it is.
Sure, evil.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting location. This was a Chinese community that worked in a gold mine in the area. Was built. I think the mine first opened up around 1890, and of course, being a large industrial gold mine, there had been some deaths, and there was a couple of murders, and connected to the Chinese. Back in the day, there was no Chinese families. You'd have to actually, to get a wife coming over from China was really hard. And the head of the Tong, or the society there, actually did get a wife to come over, but he was it. He was the only one, and so it was just all men, and they were sending money back, or gold back, to their families in China, and they'd have to send it through the society. And there was a conflict, and somebody got shot over it, so there was a murder at one of the locations. And other than that, it was very, very active. You've got to remember, too, it's right on a river, a very fast-flowing river, and that's got tons of energy. Absolutely tons of energy through it. So and we accidentally killed a bear.
No, you didn't.
Last year's cub. We were driving along a dirt road, and we saw it just at the last minute running beside the truck, and then just before we could even slow down and veer out of the way, it cut right in front of the truck and broke his neck. So that was sad. We put it in the back of the truck, and we started driving, and that was a little black bear, and they're pretty fast. Probably 200 yards away, in the middle of the road, was a grizzly bear whose hump was, the fellow in front of us described the hump maybe being 5.5 feet to 6 feet off the ground. And it was just a big grizzly standing in the road, and then it moved off to our left. So we thought, well, we could give him the little bear to eat, which he would have, if he ran across it, he would have gulped that down pretty quick. And that was interesting, because in the part of Canada I live, down by the coast, it's all black bears. We don't see the black bears get pretty big here, but not. That was one mother of a grizzly. So it would be. It was kind of cool. The poor little black bear. Just 5 of us standing there looking at it, and it was the saddest thing. It was like Derek White Skycloud, sprinkled his ceremonial tobacco on it. We all kind of kind of apologized, and off he went. So, or off the little spirit went. But that was pretty sad. And then we met some really cool town folk who said, "What? This isn't haunted. Why are you here? Why are you people here looking for ghosts? There's nothing here. But when no one's around, I'll tell you about the headless person who lives." It's like, well,
yeah.
It's always kind of fun.
It's funny how people are. It's like, don't look at the tarot cards. But when nobody else is around, I'll tell you what happened when I read tarot cards, or I'll tell you what I saw there. People are funny. I'm sorry about the bears, but it's interesting that you saw two. And did you find that there are portals up on that river? I mean, that's what we found in Colorado.
Portals?
A lot, or I found. Well, vortex energy. When you get fast-moving water running downstream quickly, I tend to get more vortex energy.
You may get that, but I grew up on a delta in a river that moved very, very fast. Not the delta itself, but the river around it. And the river split into the Pacific Ocean, and that was you're living in energy.
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah, that I'm talking about mountain mining town rivers. There's a place called Angel Creek outside of Ouray, and Ouray is. Man, I would love to get you guys down to Ouray and just go to Ouray and spend time in the Beaumont and go up Angel Creek and go up to the mines. We need to get somebody to pay for your travel.
Okay.
And because you would totally see, I think Derek would see what I see when I go to Ouray. It is the most haunted town, I believe. I haven't been everywhere in the Mountain West, but it's incredible. I mean, they run in packs out there, those miners. They get together and they run up and down the street and they...
Are you talking about the ghosts or the real miners?
The ghosts.
Oh, okay.
The ghosts of the miners. I mean, there's just so many vortexes and interdimensional portals, and and they used to kind of Shanghai people, and so, when people would get money, they would kill them. So there was a lot of murdering.
That is
gangs
unacceptable.
Would murder. I know.
We're going up to a place that was really popular in the gold rush, and it's in north central British Columbia called Barkerville, and it's an old ghost town, but they've actually opened it up, and they've rebuilt it. They've tweaked all the old like the saloon with the actual dance hall stage and everything. They've fixed it all up, and they have dance hall girls there, and hurdy-gurdy girls, I think they were called. And they have people dressed up in period costumes, and it's another very active place. Lots of old cemeteries, lots of murder and gold, and it's river running right through the middle of it. So we're going up there mid-July. And have some fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. Well, that is very, very interesting that you went. We are getting on toward the top of the hour. I'm going to let you go. Yeah, I'm going to let you go. This is Elizabeth Anglin, the host before the host, which is James Tyson. We've been talking about paranormal investigations. We've got the Haunted Housewives from somewhere out east of here coming up next.
East of you?
Ohio.
Yeah.
East of me, east of you, east of us, in Ohio and the Midwest, but very capable. I think you should ask them before I go if they do any train accident hauntings, because there were a lot of trains that, like we had in Michigan, we had the Wabash Cannonball, which was, head-on collision, and there were a lot of train accidents in Ohio and Michigan, and anyway, so that's the question I want you to ask them: is have they done anything with trains?
I certainly will. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, and I'll talk to you next Saturday.
All right, I'll see y'all later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, as well as on Facebook. On YouTube, our channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere. Watch it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, here's James Tyson.
Welcome, everybody, to Spaced Out Weekend. It is I again. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being the host before the host earlier tonight. And tonight we have some really cool guests. It's the Haunted Homewives. It's the Haunted Housewives. It's Teresa RG. Now, she is the original Haunted Housewife. Teresa is an experienced lecturer, educator, researcher, and paranormal investigator, and has many years dealing with spirits, ghosts, and paranormal activity. Teresa has worked beside some of the most well-known experts and those who call themselves experts in the paranormal field, and has been featured by countless media outlets and even a podcast from Canada like us. So Teresa is also the author of the book America's Most Haunted, and you can go to their website, hauntedhousewives.com. Check out the bio and read a little bit more about them and their fancy book. Is there pictures in that book, Teresa? Yes, then I will read it, because if there's no pictures, I don't do those. I'm really bad. Now, we also have Kathy Weber. Now, she is the ghost lady. Kathy operates the popular Willoughby Ghost Walk, and it's a twilight stroll through the haunted historic district of downtown Willoughby, Ohio. That just sounds haunted and spooky anyway. She's also the author of the book Haunted Willoughby, Ohio, and it details many of the stories and sites featured on her Ghost Walk. Kathy is an experienced paranormal investigator and sought-after speaker and lecturer on the paranormal, and presents her paranormal classes and workshops to her local community groups. Welcome, both of you. Oh, it's a real pleasure, and thank you for staying up ever so late and dropping in here. And it is me, just broadcasting from the little log cabin on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network here on the paranormal portals of the lower left Canadian coast. And I'm talking to a couple of nice women who are not dozing off. You're all ready to go. Now, Kathy, how long have you been bumping into these kind of spirits? What got you started in this?
for finding out what is going on in the other world or the paranormal world stayed with me. And as I got older, I had more opportunities to explore and investigate and learn. And I took those opportunities. And I really didn't do any active investigating until I did meet Teresa. I was more on I was running my Willoughby Ghost Walk, and I was doing historic research on old buildings and finding out why they were haunted, and that was my real passion. And then Teresa told me, you got to try investigating. And I thought, no, that's not a good idea. And then we started investigating together, and it's been that way ever since. So it's been many, many years now.
Many, many years? Like 5?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, well, let's see, 5, 6, 7 years.
7 years. Oh.
7 years, yeah.
So you've hit the 7 years and you're still together. That's good. That's
it's like a marriage.
Yeah, Teresa, how about
you? Well, I've been involved in the paranormal since I was very young because I was always fascinated with it. I was always a weird kid. But as I got older, it became more fashionable or more acceptable to actually get into this stuff and talk about it in public. And I was with a couple different teams or groups before I met Kathy, and really didn't like the direction they were going in. It was always like they were just kind of trying to copy what they saw on TV, and I didn't really care for that. And when I met Kathy, I knew she was a historian, and I was really interested in the history part of the hauntings, not just the ghost stories and the investigative part or the evidence part. I really liked the history and the personal stories. So I wanted to work with Kathy, and basically I stalked her until she agreed to work with me. I kept calling on the ghost walk, and she's like, how many times are you going to do this ghost walk, lady? Trying to get involved with her. She was also very active in the community doing paranormal fundraisers, which is something I really thought was fascinating, to get a group of people into the paranormal while also helping the community through raising funds at these fundraisers. And I thought that was an awesome thing. And that's basically a huge portion of what we do, are paranormal-themed fundraisers. And so Kathy turned me into more of a historian, and I turned her into more of an investigator. And we call ourselves parahistorians.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's more of the angle that I like to go on too. Some of these TV shows are, they bother me. They're taunting and harassing, and it's personally I take offense to what they're doing to things on the other side. So I like the historical part of this, and that's one of the things that I looked at if you go to your website, which is probably someplace you've been, but for other people, the listener, if you want to go to the Haunted Housewives website and go to events, one of the events here I think is really cool that you have coming up in July, and I'll get to that in a second. But you did have a fundraiser on Friday, and at the Plainsville Train Depot. Or depot, whatever you want to call it. And next Friday, you've got Willoughby Coal, and then the Greenwood Farm. Now, those are the types of things, nice little events. The one that I find really interesting is July 29th to the 20th at Gettysburg.
I heard you earlier, and I fixed it already.
Oh, you did? No, well, I must, because I haven't refreshed the website. I'm looking at it going, oh my God, they're time travelers. So that was really cool. But those are the types of things, like they're private investigations, of course, and you have another private one at the Willoughby Coal on Friday, July 15th. But I'm doing a fundraiser for a historic community on a gold mine coming up in mid-July. And I like doing those. Taking people along, and obviously these are active places, so you're letting people who have never really done this before experience something. And I'm like you two, things have happened in my life that I have questions about, and what a great way for others who have those questions too to actually kind of stick their toe in this stuff without having to invest in a lot of money, or a lot of equipment, I should say, and actually get to go along with somebody. In your case, Kathy, you can. Well, I'm probably Teresa too. You can give a good history of the location, as well as allow them to maybe contact something on the other side.
We both realize we talk at the same time a lot. We do both realize the importance of preservation of history because, first of all, if we aren't preserving these iconic places, where are we going to go look for ghosts? Where are those great stories going to come from? Where are the legends and lore going to be born if everything is torn down? And, you know, in this country, it's a very popular thing to just rip it down and wonder what it was before later on. So we are really into preserving history. And there are things not listed on our website. Like we go on private investigations. We have a big one coming up that I'm really excited about. Just Teresa and I get to go to these places where we get that little in because people know who we are. And it's the Little Red Schoolhouse here in near our town, which has never been investigated. No one's ever stepped foot in there to investigate. So that's going to be an exciting night coming up this Wednesday. But that is, like I said, private. And it's a secret, so don't tell anyone.
Okay. Nobody in Ohio is going to know this. And, you know, I go through my list of spooky people, and a lot of my friends, we'll call them internet friends or Facebook friends or Twitter friends or Instagram friends who are interested in the paranormal or have activity around them or they've always had it around them. They all seem to live in Ohio. There's a huge amount of experiencers in Ohio. Have you found that too?
Well, I think Ohio is incredibly haunted. I think there's a lot of people that are into the paranormal, and I don't know if that's just my perspective because I live here, and this is where most of our adventures happen. Although we've been all over the country and different parts of the world, I think we're surrounded by it. I think in the United States, at least, the older part of the country seems to have more history and therefore have more hauntings. And we're in Cleveland, Ohio, so we're not exactly part of the original 13 colonies, but we've been a state for a long time. There's been people here for hundreds of years, and, well, more than that, but, you know, an established community, and so therefore there's a lot of history, whereas more on the West Coast, it seems that everything is newer and maybe a little more transient, like it hasn't really sunk in some of the history. And also the difference I think on the West Coast is they do focus more on new places, where here in Ohio and in New England and places like that, you can still find buildings from the 16 and 1700s that are still standing, although it's very rare. And I just think that the more the history, the more active a place can be, because for me, I think that a haunting, paranormal activity has something to do with people actually remembering the history and bringing it up. I think there has to be some sort of personal connection. So maybe it has something to do with that. I'm not sure. I just think Ohio's a great place. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think Cleveland too is one of the cool things about Cleveland. It is on a lake, and the energy of the water that's there too. It is a if you were going from east to west, and you're up in that area, the Great Lakes area. And if you're going down the south, you know, if you went straight east from Boston or even Syracuse and hit Buffalo, and you go south, if you were an explorer or a settler or whatever, you'd scoot along that side of the lake. So there, like you say, there's been people there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And out west, we've other than the First Nations or what you would call American Indian, we've had some Spanish influences up in this part of Canada and up in the Pacific Northwest, but most of the buildings are. I think the oldest building might have been in the early 1800s, of a fort, but that's about it. The rest of them are and made of wood, because it's a forest here. So how long can a wooden building built in 1820 actually exist out on the West Coast? Down in the southern part of, like down in California, you've got the, back when that was actually part of Mexico, you've got some of the old Mexican architecture. So those buildings have been around for the 1600s, 1600s, 1700s, because of the Mexican and Spanish influence. But out on that that Northeast and Midwest, or I shouldn't say Midwest, the Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Holy cow, those places are just great, just ripe with history.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you brought up the lake and the water, because one of our presentations was easily formed by just going along the lakeshore here from Toledo all the way over to Ashtabula, which is, all along the lake. And it was easy for us to find places that had hauntings or reported hauntings or legends and stories that have been going on for years and years. So when we put the presentation together, all the blocks just fell into place right on the lake shore. And does the water have something to do with it, possibly? The conducting of the water? Or I even heard you talking with Elizabeth about the water a little earlier.
Yeah, we find that, or I found in my experience anyway, anything connected to tidal influence or moving water. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were to imagine where Seattle is in the Pacific Northwest, it's kind of, there's an island off of Vancouver, British Columbia. It's Vancouver Island. It's the second largest island in the Pacific Ocean after the main island in New Zealand. But as the tide comes in, it squeezes through a very narrow area that goes through the San Juan Islands down into Seattle, past a city called Victoria, British Columbia, at the tip of Vancouver Island. And that tip of Vancouver Island, for centuries before the white man came, was the meeting place. That was where the First Nations would come down the island to, quote-unquote, speak to their dead. And it's deemed one of the most haunted places in North America. And it's because, my understanding, and it's me going into the Mountie thing, it's been my experience and my training that it's because of the motion of the water pushing in and out of there on the tide. It's just a huge push of energy, and all that area around the Pacific Northwest and that inlet in there, the San Juan Islands, Strait of Juan de Fuca, all those towns in there, and old little places like fishing villages and ports are very, very active. And the other thing they were saying was what the geology was of the rock that was there. It was more porous and it opened things up. But I've been on paranormal investigations at the tip of that island, and incredible, absolutely incredible. The information you get was literally getting information from a judge that passed away in the 1800s, and that I was in his courtroom. I got him to give me his last name, which was, he gave me his first name. I said, "What is your name?" And he said, "Matthew." And then I want to hear your gavel on the bench, and I heard the gavel, and then I asked him what his favorite song was, because he was quite a singer, like played the piano and things, and I didn't get a name, but we heard music, and I kind of wrote it off at the beginning because I thought it was a nightclub down the street. And then I got it home, put it on the system, played it, and listened to it, and it was 1800s piano music. So again, wow. I take that, and that is, 50, 60 meters or yards from the water. When you're looking from, Toledo all the way up to Buffalo, you're looking, was that Lake Erie, right?
Yeah, Lake Erie.
Lake Erie, and think of the storms and the amount of shipwrecks you have in Lake Erie.
Several of our stories are the shipwrecks.
Yeah.
Our presentation, James, is called Tales of the Erie Shore, Ghosts of Ohio, and Erie is Lake Erie is spelled E-R-I-E, but we spell it in our presentation E-E-R-I-E as a play on words. Yeah. So, the water might have something to do with it. I've never investigated up in Canada, but I have been to Alaska, and I did manage to do an investigation in Skagway at a place called the Red Onion Saloon, which was an old brothel, which was very interesting. So, and that, right there is right near the water, and there's very interesting geology and geography there that I found absolutely fascinating, just the history alone. So you combine that history with the geology and the other forces of nature that are at work, and I think it's a wonderful mixture that adds to paranormal activity. But for us, the heart of it is the history, is the personal stories. That's really what we really that's why we do it. That's what we're here for. We're not here to prove anything to anyone. We're not here trying to capture evidence, because we think evidence is kind of, it's a joke. I mean, I could play you the best EVP in the world, and if you weren't there to hear it, you could be like, oh, okay, sure. So what good is a ghost picture or an EVP if people don't believe it? So we're not into really trying to prove anything to anybody, but boy, we love to tell the stories, and we love to learn about the history. And to us, that's what keeps us going. And there's so much history.
There's a place that I would love to investigate out there, and again, because of the water energy, and it's Catawba
Island.
Catawba. Yeah.
Or Chautauqua.
It's I think it's probably all industrial, but in shipyards and things. But if you could find one of the older, like shipping buildings, or where they actually were building the ships, or the carpentry sheds and stuff going back at the turn of the century, that place I think would be absolutely wonderful to poke around in there. And I think there's a state park there, but I can't remember what it's called. But out in is it called Marblehead? There's a point.
Yes.
Okay.
Marblehead and East Harbor.
See,
East
those
Harbor
are the kind of places that
park.
I'd love to poke around, old lighthouses and, places where...
Well, in Catawba, what you're talking about has many, many caves and caverns, too.
Oh, lovely.
So it's very interesting. So it's not only got the lake and everything going on, but there's all these caves that, who knows what the history of caves are. And of course, it's all going to go back to ancient times and Indians.
Then the War of 1812 and...
Right.
Yeah, that's the part of the history that I love, going back and digging around there. Yeah, you've got some great history in the Cleveland area. Holy cow.
Oh, we sure do.
Okay, I'm coming
There's
over.
never a dull moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that, Teresa, you were talking about EVPs, or was that Kathy talking about the EVPs?
Teresa.
Teresa, yeah. Someone said once, how many EVPs... or how many ghost photographs do you really need to prove a ghost exists? And really all you need is one. But what then you would need is people to believe in what you took a picture of. And that's the hard part. Do ghosts exist? I believe they do, because I've had back and forth conversations with them. If they're not, energies or spirits, then what the heck are they? And depending on your religious beliefs, they're anything from demons to I've got a bump on my head that is making all this stuff up. But it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Where's the next place you would like to get going? What would be your Super Bowl poking around in? Kath?
Well...
Oh, sorry, Teresa?
I'd say...
Go ahead, Kathy, because I bet we'll say the same thing. No, go ahead. I bet we'll say the same thing.
Well, we always say any castle in Europe, but we do have Gettysburg coming up in July, which is very exciting for both of us. We were asked to come along with another team that we're friends with, and we're staying, of course, at a haunted bed and breakfast. I think that's a requirement. And so we're going to be investigating some of the farms and some of the battlefields, as well as some of the older establishments right there in town. So it's going to be very exciting, because Gettysburg is undeniably a very haunted place here in the States, especially in Pennsylvania. So we're both looking forward to that.
Gettysburg was it Gettysburg where about 23,000 men died?
Correct.
Gettysburg was the decisive battle of the Civil War, and they claim there were 55,000 deaths, but that's not true. There were 55,000 casualties, which means wounded, captured, or dead. There was probably about 5,000 to 8,000 deaths, but it was still over a 3-day period. It was still a lot, and it's the most historic battlefield in the United States, and it's just a fascinating place, and I think it's a must-see for any history lover or any paranormal enthusiast, and we're looking forward to going there together. I've been there before, and I've actually been to this place that we're staying. So I'm looking forward to going back there with Kathy. And we talk about our Super Bowl, our bucket list that we wanted to go to. And Kathy said, and I thought she was going to say castles in Europe. And I was just there in September. My husband sent me for my birthday to Ireland, where I have family, and I managed to, in 9 days, go to 5 haunted castles and investigate 3 of them. So, actually 3, kind of 4 if you count one. So I managed to squeeze in my haunted castle adventures over a very short period of time over in Ireland. But unfortunately, Kathy wasn't with me, so it wasn't quite the same. But we'd love to go back together as a team.
As a team, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you in Northern Ireland
fantastic.
or Southern Ireland?
Southern Ireland. My family is from Ireland, and I still have family over there. So it was nice, but they're in one part of the country, and I kind of made my way across from Dublin through the Midlands all the way up to the other western coast, and managed to stay at a castle in central Ireland called Kennedy Castle, which is not nearly as well known as some of the other castles, but extremely haunted and very historic. It was built in the 11th century, and it was like a Norman castle. It was really a fascinating place. Really looked like a castle, not a palace, but a castle. And it was a fascinating place, and it was extremely, extremely active, and it was absolutely wonderful. And then I got to go to Charleville Castle, which was a faux castle in Tullamore, which is a newer castle that was made to look old. It wasn't a fortification, but still an amazing history. And then, of course, I went to Leap Castle, which is considered by many to be the most haunted castle in Europe. And it did not disappoint. It was wonderful.
Now, when you go do your investigations, like in a castle like that, what do you take with you?
Well, on that trip, since I was on vacation, I took very little with me. I had my camera and my recorder, and because I was really, I was traveling as a tourist, so I didn't have a lot with me. I had my camera and a couple little handheld devices, my recorder, but it's really all I needed. I mean, Kathy and I have really switched gears from years ago when we started, where I have a basement full of equipment with stationary infrared cameras and all sorts of different tools, and we pretty much now carry one little case with us, because I found early on I can set up 4 stationary cameras and run 4 audio recorders, and then I have 30 hours of audio and video to go through, and no one to help me. So now we pretty much do mostly. We've toned it down quite a bit, and we seem to get. I think it works better for us for what we're trying to do, because again, we're not really after evidence, where we can have that immediate playback and interaction, and really focus on the history and learning what's going on, other than trying to capture evidence. It's going to turn somebody's world around and convince them that ghosts are real.
Yeah. Do either of you, because of your experiences you had when you were younger, would you say that you have questions that you're still trying to get answers for?
That's what keeps us going, I think.
Yeah.
Just as you said, I want to know, and so probably until the day I die, I'm going to be on this quest to try to get answers. And, there are questions still left from your first paranormal experience, but there's going to be questions every time you go out and investigate, because there's a new set of questions. There's new things that you're curious about. There's things that happen that you don't have an explanation for, and those are the things that are going to make you actively want to investigate, probably forever. Yeah,
and that's what really, and my listener gets tired of me saying this. I've always said that the byproduct of us trying to find answers for our own questions when we do paranormal investigations, the byproduct is helping somebody else who's got something going on in their house, and I think, you're going to open your doors up so I can go answer questions I have? Okay. That's good for me. I'll get that. We're talking to Teresa.
I look at it too.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it. It's kind of a win-win for everyone until we find out it's just a raccoon scooting around the attic. Not that,
and we have.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if you give me $500 a month, the ghost will never come back. What have you got in that little box you're leaving with? Nothing at all. Oh, I have great disdain for people who charge for paranormal investigations. It just drives me crazy. We are talking to Teresa RG and Kathy Weber. They are the Haunted Housewives, and they are staying up really late just to talk to us. We're going to be right back with more from the Haunted Housewives right after this.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Elizabeth Anglin, and on the last Monday of every month, I join Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. We delve into everything from extraterrestrial contact to animal communication. It's a lot of fun, and every month it's something different and exciting. I would love it if you would join us. You can hear and learn from my experiences, and I'd like to know about yours as well. Cosmic Passport on spacedoutradio.com.
Fairies, Bigfoot, dogmen, trolls, goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is your medium Joanna from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a room reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson can be found at spacedoutradio.com. Head to our website where you can join the Space Travelers and sign up for your new membership. You can also follow James on Twitter at JamesTysonSOR. Now, back to our paranormal guru, James Tyson.
Welcome back, everybody. We are with Kathy and Teresa, the Haunted Housewives. I almost said Paranormal Pair. Like, what was I thinking? The Paranormal... No! The Haunted Housewives. So you bumped into each other. You were stalking Teresa was stalking Kathy while she was doing her Willoughby ghost walks. And when you finally got together and you decided, well, you know what, maybe we could look a little further into this. And I know that you like the history. Both of you are more the history buffs on the end of the paranormal investigative scale. But when you first got together, and Teresa, you're saying you had a ton of equipment in the basement. Like, what were the first bits and pieces you did? Was it strictly to do with the ghost walk?
Well, Kathy had actually worked with the team that I was a part of on a fundraiser in Willoughby where she lived, and unfortunately I couldn't be part of that. But when time came up for Kathy to do another one, my teammates told Kathy, "Oh, well, you really should talk to Teresa about it. She's more into this than us, and she might be better for that." And I was like, heck yeah. And so that's when I kind of went and introduced myself to Kathy and started hanging around, because I loved the idea of a paranormal fundraiser. I'd never heard of anything, at this historic haunted location, and you have an event and bring people in and you learn some history and you do some good. And I thought it was a great combination. And like you mentioned this earlier, James, at these fundraisers that we have, people can do as little or as much as they want. They can just come and watch. They can participate. We find a lot of what happens on our fundraisers is people come and they want to watch us ghost hunt. They don't want to be involved at all. They want to follow us around and watch us ghost hunt, which I think is ridiculous. And then other times people are just, well, that's their in. That's their way to get their team into one of these historic places. So you get all different kinds, but yeah. Kathy was really more in that, well, this is the place and this is the history, and she was a storyteller, and I wanted to show her the beauty of investigating and connecting that history to the paranormal, because she was certainly open to the paranormal, just not open to investigating. I think that television and these reality shows had kind of tarnished what many people felt about it, because that's kind of what was expected now on an investigation, is to do it the way they did it on TV, which is not the way I used to do it and not the way I preferred to do it. So I think Kathy was a little leery that way, but outside of restraining order, there was really nothing else she could do but just work with me. So,
well,
and
Kathy?
Our very first one we worked together on was at the local history center. So you can imagine talking about history here. It was like the place is a very historic place. It was a former poorhouse, and it has a history that goes way back to the 1850s. And it's like one of my places I'm really passionate about raising funds for. And I had done this fundraiser previously, and then I brought Teresa on, and this was like my first introduction to working with her. And we have everything going. There's a lot of people involved. There's like 25 people involved supporting this, volunteering behind the scenes. She comes whisking in the door late, literally on a broom, and she comes in and she's like rushing around, setting things down, and then she goes, "Oh my gosh, I forgot my equipment." And I'm like, "What the heck?" So she's calling her husband. Her husband brings this equipment all the way, it takes him 25 minutes. And everything is going a little late, and I'm thinking, I am never working with this woman again. and then the rest is history. Here we are. But wow. It was fun, because I did get to observe how she investigated, and I really appreciated her style and the way that she approached it. And then once we started working together on a regular basis, we both she taught me a lot, and I think I'm kind of encouraged her to look like she said, more on the historical side, and what is the story behind here? Why would this be haunted? Who could this be? And when we started looking into those things, she got really passionate about that. I got more passionate about investigating, and then we got together, and it worked for us. It worked well for the Haunted Housewives together, the two of us. A lot of people have wanted us to grow our team, become a part of our team. We've had several men want to become Haunted Housewives, but we found that the two of us work well together.
Yeah, it sounds like a good team, and it sounds like you play off each other really well. Now, if anybody wants to know a little bit more about the Willoughby Ghost Walk, you can go they have a website, willoughbyghostwalk.com, and you can find a link on the Haunted Housewives website. You can follow them on Twitter at WLBY Ghost Walk, and follow Kathy on Twitter at Ghost Lady, and the O in Ghost is a 0. Just, like my wife's password for the internet is password with the 0 instead of an O. Oh, my Lord. Oh, not, see, I've given it away. Now everyone's going to know that. Being tricky. It's not just password. No, the 0 is an O. It'll take them years to figure that out. On your first couple of investigations, what did you find anything that enhanced the history of the building? Did you go to the Masonic Temple building and find Bob the Mason from 1920 or something? Did you do anything like that?
We always find it's a history center that Kathy's talking about, their first place, and that's a place we've gone back. We do the fundraisers for them every year, twice a year now. We always find interesting things that most of the time it seems to coincide with the history, and Kathy is basically an expert at some of these places, especially the ones in Willoughby, and so it really is satisfying when something does happen, or you do get an EVP that seems to coincide with a person, or you pick up a name and it is a name of somebody who you knew actually was there at one point. And to get that validation for us is great. And again, we don't care if it proves anything to anybody, but it really is great. And at the History Center, we've got some amazing experiences that really do tie into the history, and we think it's awesome. I mean, the History Center is probably our favorite. That and Willoughby Cole, those are our two favorite local places to investigate, and we've had a lot of things that have happened, especially the History Center, that have really do coincide with the history. And what's amazing is, James, sometimes I don't know it, and we'll capture an EVP or we'll pick something up, and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And here Kathy will know a tidbit of information that I didn't know that will validate that, and that's a great moment when something like that happens.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Like who's this? We just picked up a name, Lucy. What's Lucy? Who's Lucy? And then she happens to know the history of Lucy that was there. So, yeah, that's always that's such a satisfying experience. We really love that.
Kathy, did you find at the History Center that the energies that you were running into were connected with items in there, or were they connected with the building?
I think it's more residual to the building and what occurred there. The history of poorhouses, I don't know, you might know a little bit about it, James, but it's a very bleak history. So there's not a lot of positives, it's a lot of negative. And we have picked up on names, and then later on validated through the ledgers or through the local history who those people were. So she's right. We've had people come up with EVPs and say, why would this say Wyatt? The man says his name is Wyatt. Who's Wyatt? And I'm like, oh my gosh, Wyatt is the man who killed himself in that room, So it's just, they don't know this history, but I'm just always fascinated when these things occur. Charlie, the man who hung himself in the bell tower, his name was presented far before anybody found out the history of Charlie, who was actually there. Because even the director, I remember the director of the Lake County History Center being interviewed and her saying, I don't know of any Charlie, I don't know any Charlie. And then a few months later, she's like, oh my gosh, Charlie did commit suicide by hanging himself in the bell tower here. There was a lot of negative, a lot of death, a lot of people trying to kill themselves, a lot of people with a lot of mental illnesses and things that stayed in this place. And I just think that their stories remain wanting to be told. And because we go there searching for it, it's just a good connection, and it seems to work every time we're there. There's never been a time we've been there when it wasn't extremely active. And it's a very large building. So, and there's so many little nooks and crannies and places to go that when we found Lucy, she was in the basement cells. They actually have cells in the basement. And Lucy was a woman who was considered insane or mad, and she continually took her clothes off and ran around outside in the village square. So they kept putting her down in these cells, and when Teresa came up with Lucy, I said, oh, I've read Lucy's story, or I've written Lucy's story a couple of times. And I knew immediately why Lucy was down in the basement. They were picking up on her energy.
Now, when you say residual, is it energy that's like, to me, I think of the battlefields in Belgium and France from the First World War, where the farmers are still seeing the loop of that repeating apparition, like it's on a loop. So somebody who was full of fear and adrenaline made an imprint in time, but there's no way to communicate with it, because that person could have either died there or lived a long life, but at that specific time in history, they imprinted there.
And I do believe the residual that you see and experience in that way is very much a fabric of where you are and what occurred there. At the same time, when you pick up an intelligent EVP, are you going to tell me without a doubt that really is Ed or Sue or whomever is introducing themselves as such? Now, we can hope when I said Lucy and I knew what the name connected to, that was Lucy, but is it really? And like I said, these are questions that are going to go on and on and on until we're not here any longer. And then we'll know the answers and we won't be able to tell anyone.
Well, we could tell all the people around us and they'll be looking at you going, yeah, rookie. We've known that a long time. You just got here. That's the other thing too, is like when I've had back and forth conversations with things from the other side, and it's freaky, and then you forget that you're not talking to a living person, and you're talking to them like you are talking to a living person, and it's, then you have to kind of snap back into it, and you wonder why they're still there. Why haven't you, quote unquote, crossed over? And one of the things that bothers me about some television, a lot of things bother me about some of the television paranormal groups, but like going into the same haunted location over and over again and harassing the heck out of them, and then going for a beer afterwards and leaving the spirit cranky and wondering what's going on, or the people who've bought an old asylum and charge you $300 to go in to have a few beer and go harass the ghosts or spirits or whatever. They were tormented in life, and now you're going to torment them. It's like rattling the cage of an animal. Those bother me, and I'm wondering, did you ever get to the point where you're just thinking, we really should get somebody in here? Maybe we could ask them, why are you still here? Why haven't you moved on?
Well, of course, we never condone anybody being disrespectful to spirits, because these were people, these were living human beings, and like my father's passed, I wouldn't want somebody trying to communicate with my father and demanding that he perform a trick like some of these ghost hunters do. Obviously we don't appreciate that. We do appreciate being let into old buildings that are 300 years old and trying to communicate. And as far as the souls being tormented, this is just my personal belief. So before anybody gets all up in arms, I am a very religious person, and I don't believe personally that a soul gets trapped on Earth. The God that I believe in, I don't think he would leave a soul trapped on Earth. Now, that being said, I think our spirit, our energy can splinter after death, and some of it can remain here. So part of our personality, part of our energy, part of our essence and our spirit does remain here, and maybe it's that part that is caught in the loop of being in a prison, of being a prisoner, of being a mental patient. So in that sense, I think part of us can remain behind as a ghost, maybe a ghost that is here in a not a pleasant situation. But I believe our soul is not here. I think that our soul moves on. I do think that a gifted psychic or medium can communicate with that portion of a ghost, of a spirit, and tell them, you don't have to be here. You don't have to be stuck in this state. You can move on. But I don't believe that any human person has the power to send a soul to the light. I don't believe that at all. That's my personal belief. I believe you can communicate and you can talk to ghosts, as we call them, which are portions of our personality and energy, and get them to move on. But I don't think that we can send a soul to the light. I don't believe that being trapped there. And just like we're made of energy, not all of our energy remains behind after death. Part of it does. Part of our energy imprints on a place, on a person, on an object even. So that's my belief. When I got into the paranormal, I started thinking, why am I doing this? This is so depressing to think that a child's spirit is trapped here after suffering in an orphanage for 9 years of its life and then being trapped here. What kind of afterlife is that? What kind of God would do that? And I've come to the conclusion that that's not exactly what's happening. So that's my personal belief, that it's just a portion of energy, and sometimes we can communicate with it, or sometimes we can't, which is why we still run into these things at a prison like the Mansfield Reformatory over and over. After 20, 30 years of people investigating, they're still running into these tormented souls, as they call them, but they're not really souls, these ghosts of these old prisoners that were miserable there, because it's not really the whole person, and we can't really move them on. We can't really convince them to move on because it's just a form of energy.
Okay. Teresa, you the same?
That was Teresa.
Oh, it was? I'm
that
sorry,
was
Kathy. You came in a much clearer than you were earlier. That's what I was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Kathy, you the same then?
I share a lot of the same ideas and beliefs as Teresa, obviously, because we're partners in crime. I do believe more in freedom in the spirit, that once we are spiritual beings, we have more freedom to go and do. And I do think spirits can travel. I think they can come back to that place. As
Yes.
Teresa, it torments me to think that, a child that was, raped and murdered in this particular spot haunts this particular spot. Why? That makes not a lot of sense. But again, as she was saying, that part of that, the essence of that being that had such a tormented and terrible experience is left behind, a splinter is left behind, and that's what we're experiencing. I don't know that I'm experiencing a whole human being that is in spirit form. Sometimes I think we do, because I have, I've experienced them a little bit on a different plane than Teresa, but I don't know if I'm seeing the whole person or if I'm seeing a memory of that person, or, so more. All we get is more questions, James. I don't think we get any answers.
Well, that's the fun part. I was in a back and forth conversation with children, a couple of First Nations or Native American children who were in a thing called a residential school, and this is a place where they were taken away from their families, put into a certain religious-based school to basically teach the Indian out of them. Very, very horrific conditions, murders, sexual abuse, goes on. There were a number of the children that hadn't, quote-unquote, crossed over. And I asked them why they were still there, and a nun who hadn't left them. Oh, drat, I've given away the religious group. But the children said, one of the children said blackmail, and then the nun said blackmail. And while I was communicating with them, the priest who back in the day had done horrid things to them, said, you shouldn't be talking to him, which is me. And basically what we felt was, the kids were being held back because he, was blaming the victim. If you go to God, then I'll tell him what you did, which would have been what really he did to these poor kids. So it was trying to get the priest, now being that he thinks he's going to go to hell if he crosses over, he is not only not crossing, he's staying back with the kids, he's making them stay back, and he's pestering them. And luckily there was a good nun and an older Indian male staying back with them. So in that conversation, I get kind of an idea of, all right, you had the opportunity to go, but you didn't. kind of that, and this comes up to a friend of mine is a emergency ward nurse. Her husband is emergency ward doctor in Vancouver, British Columbia. They had a young girl, 17-year-old girl, come in from a serious car accident. They whipped her into the room. They were working on her just off to the side of, in the emergency, and she passes on the table. Now, it's a very busy night. They shut everything down, and they get it ready, and they move the gurney down the hall. And about 3 or 4 minutes later, they push in a guy who's got a liver condition, and he's in a lot of pain. And they literally just put him there to hold him while they move the other lady, the young woman, out, and break a group of the emergency staff off to deal with her parents and the paperwork. And he starts yelling, "Get her out of here! Get her out of here!" And they come in, and he's yelling, and he says, "She keeps screaming." And he points to the wall, and there's nobody there, but he totally describes that 17-year-old girl from head to toe. And she is absolutely going berserk because, my first thinking is that, well, her body's gone. So she didn't get an opportunity she didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And that's why we find a lot of hospitals are active with people who, and this is the different belief system too, is, people who don't know they're dead.
And,
it happens so
what?
quickly, they're just kind of hanging there going, okay, now what do I do?
I do believe that like Kathy said, that apparently that some people can choose. Well, I'm not going. I'm not ready to go. I got something I got to take care of. Or like you said, they don't know they're dead, and therefore maybe more of their energy, more of their personality does stay behind. It's more, I guess, more of a religious thing than a paranormal thing about the soul. I think your soul, is different than your energy and than your personality. But I do believe that you can choose not to go because for whatever reason you're scared, you have something you need to take care of, or you just don't want to leave, you're too attached. Just like I believe that when we've passed, if you choose to come back in visitation, you can, which is why our loved ones come and visit us all the time. My father, who didn't believe in ghosts, used to come and sit with my daughter all the time. So I think in that sense, you can travel back and forth, fully aware and at your own will and desire. So it's all really fascinating. A hospital, we know psychics that won't go in hospitals. It's just too much for them.
It's too busy, yeah. The psychic that kind of... My first experience with the psychic, she was hospitalized going to a mall shopping at the end of November once. It was so busy for Christmas shopping. She got to the point where she didn't know who was real and who wasn't. Things were coming up to her. She's, she really has to isolate herself now, and she's learning. It's taken her a long time. She's had some other very, I say old psychics, but experienced ones helping her block and helping her put herself in a position where she can't be bothered. It's hard. It's two children that were. I was in a car accident when I was 16, and the two children that were in the other car, I saw them. Years later, I found out that they actually died in the car. So when I was watching them walk around behind their dad, healthy and like nothing had happened, it shocked me to find out that they had died. Wow. I always thought that, okay, they must have died of internal injuries later, but no, they passed it in the car. Wow. So what I saw getting into the back of the ambulance and getting out of the ambulance at the hospital, healthy little kids, they weren't there, and I can describe them to this day. But I was also told I have psychics come on here every second Sunday in a show called Two Mediums and a Large, and the psychic, Joanna, told me, said, those children, they pass very quickly. A relative literally came down and said, no, come with me.
Wow.
Leave your dad alone. They didn't know they had passed. So an angel, their angels came down and said, off you go this way. And they were, the family was extremely, extremely religious. And they were happy to not that they didn't know that, but they weren't worried about where these children were going at all. They thought it was part of the God's plan. But I had a spirit in the house that I live in that was built. House was built in the 1940s, and a young man who lived in this home moved out and then committed suicide. And my daughter, this is the house we lived in when she was born, and she had never, ever since she could walk, she was terrified to go to the basement, which is an unfinished basement. It's just a big 1,000 square feet of nothing. And she would never go down there. And I felt things that were really weird down there. And I asked the psychic. She said, "Oh yeah, there's a guy down there. He doesn't like you. And he didn't like me." I found out later that because his dad was a very violent guy and who was actually a policeman, one of the local city police, and was very abusive to the children and the mother, alcoholic, the whole bit. But the area of the house that this kid was in, there were still like hockey puck marks on the concrete wall from when he and his brother used to slap a puck around the basement. And that's where he existed. And I talked to a psychic who was on my paranormal team, and she said, she explained how I could cross him over. So my daughter and I went down there and we did it, and we didn't think he crossed because, we don't know what we're doing. And I talked to a separate psychic about that, and she said, "Oh, no, he left. I see him with his head down hanging because he didn't want to leave, and he came into a loop that you had made, and he went into a beam of light that you had asked for." And I went, "Whoa," because she didn't know how he did it. And what it was is my daughter and I held our hands, and we imagined I'm just going totally goosebumps now on my left side. We called for the Archangel Michael and it was all this thing that we were told to do, just pull the light down, like a beam of light that he could go into. And we asked him to step in. And of course, we don't know what the heck's going on. We don't know what to look for when he goes. We didn't even know if he went. But my daughter can now go to the basement. She said, "Yeah, I've never felt anything again down there. I don't feel creepy going down there anymore." And when I asked the psychic, she goes, "Oh, he left, but he didn't want to. But he had never crossed," she said. And I know the ones that have crossed and they come back, the judgments part of them is left. So that's love and light they come back with. So when your grandmother comes back to play with your kid, they're just beaming love and light. And if they walk into your bedroom while you and your husband are dressed up as Batman and Robin swinging from the chandeliers, there's no judgment. It's
Kathy, you told him?
Yeah. Damn it. Yeah, it's love and light. And on that note, we're going to take another break here, and I'm going to try to get that mental picture out of my head. So,
me too.
Getting right back with Kathy and Teresa right after this.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Have you ever seen a UFO, a ghost, Bigfoot, or something else weird or arcane? This is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Every night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, we are live for 3 hours of jam-packed information with the top guests from their field of expertise. Come take a listen and share your experiences with us. You can find everything you need at spacedoutradio.com. Are you experienced?
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover Demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to get your product to the public? Advertise with us at Spaced Out Radio. At spacedoutradio.com, you can check out our pricing and packages that best suit your budgetary needs. Whether you're a budgeted author or a company looking to expand, our listeners support the products that support spacedoutradio.com. Advertising with us is an effective way to get your message out. Contact us at info@spacedoutradio.com and get your ads out today.
James Tyson can be found on Facebook at Spaced Out Weekend. You can follow James on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Twitter at James Tyson SOR. And don't forget to sign up to become a space traveler on our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Thank you, David. We are with Kathy Weber, the Ghost Lady, who runs Willoughby Ghost Walk. You can find her information at thehauntedhousewives.com, and Teresa RG. And I said it wrong again, didn't I, Teresa? Oh, I did. RG. It's just 2 letters, right? RG. And she is the original haunted housewife. But, you know, is that something your husband really, that label he gave you? Or something? You're the original haunted housewife. Yeah. Oh, hold on.
With you, there's a whole lot of haunted and not a lot of housewife involved.
Oh, too much haunted. Oh, come on. You're a good housewife. I asked 3 ghosts, and they said, no, she's good.
Anyway, my house has never been cleaner than it's been lately because I'm trying to sell it. So.
Oh, we were just going through that.
Oh, what a nightmare! And my house has been spotless. It's staged and ready to go at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, you're living in your car now because you don't want to touch anything, and
not a thing, nothing on the walls.
Somebody wanted to buy the dirt under our house because for $1.3 million.
Oh wow!
15 years ago, I paid $222,000 for this house. $1.3 million, and I turned it down because we liked the neighborhood, and all the other houses that we liked were 1.6 and up.
Oh my God!
Wow. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. You can put a house on the market here for about 10 months ago. You could put it on for $900,000, and you would have it had bidders going up to 1.4, and they were all from mainland China.
Wow, send them my way. Why? What? What's going on there where you live?
They're in, well, you can never live here. This is, like, I tell you, this house was built in 1947 and really hasn't changed much. It's the 132 by 66 foot lot that's underneath it. And it's just crazy. There were old teardown houses in Vancouver going for close to $2 million.
Wow!
Just for a teardown, and condos even were starting to go up a bit. And there were bidding wars on these. It was just a panic. I shouldn't say was. It still is that way. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think my kids are ever going to be able to afford a house around. Well, no, they won't until. Why do they keep picking mushrooms and making me eat them? I don't know. But well, I will haunt their little white pots. I tell you.
That's right.
Crazy. So, just before the break, we were talking about, not only belief systems, but the types of energies that we're running into. And what would you say, Teresa and Kathy, were some of the, I would say, scariest, or the ones that really made you think, entities that you ran into?
This is Teresa. We've had experiences all over many different places, but for me, the one that really kind of turned things around for me, where I went more from more than just like a hobby to a passion, was something that happened to me at the Mansfield Reformatory. The Ohio State Reformatory, the old Mansfield Prison in Mansfield, Ohio, which is a very famous haunted location, and it's featured in my book. To me, it's like the most haunted location in the United States. That was the first time, one of my early investigations there, that was the first time I was ever touched by a ghost, where I had my hair pulled. And it's not that I was hurt. I mean, it was a forceful pull. And it wasn't that it wasn't the fact that I was touched that it hurt me, but just knowing that the energy that a spirit can form to the point where it can yank my head back several times, the fact that they could actually cross over to communicate physically with you by touching you was a game changer, because at that moment when I got my hair pulled, I was near a set of stairs, and I could have just as easily been pushed instead of pulled, and could have been seriously hurt. So that, just knowing that could have happened, was scary. On top of the fact that we've run into probably some of the nastiest spirits we've ever dealt with at the Reformatory, because there are not a lot of pleasant spirits there. And, ones that have threatened me, one that has followed Kathy home and stuck with her for a while, just some really dark, bad things. Like the closest thing to something really evil, I think, was there. That was probably the worst. And we've had dark energies or spirits in other places, but Mansfield really sticks out in my mind as being the most quantity and quality of something that is scary, that's really kind of frightening.
Wow. Kathy, how about you?
It's funny because my experience, like she said, is Mansfield too, because that is where the spirit, we think the spirit that attached to me came from. And it was a series of, we caught an EVP of someone who was talking with us, and his name was Mike, and he gave us part of his prisoner number, and we did some research, but a lot of the prison records from Mansfield Reformatory were destroyed in a fire, so we couldn't really put a face to a name, and we couldn't figure it out. Then a while later, we found some graffiti scratched into the shower ceiling, and it had this Mike's name on it, and this prisoner number that was given to us on EVP was there on the wall for us to see. So we knew who Mike was, Mike Evans, and we knew a little more about him. But he stayed with me for quite a while, and it was an unusual time in my life because some strange things happened. We're not strangers to poltergeist activity and strange things in my house by any means, but this was a little more intense and a little more personal because I don't ever feel he was attacking me, but I never feel like he was gone. And it was a series of mostly Teresa saying, you got to get rid of this guy, and us capturing his voice constantly on our EVPs wherever we were, any place in the country. He was there talking for almost a 2-year period. Was it about 2 years, Teresa?
A little bit more than that, yeah.
Yeah, so he was there, and finally I did, through a series of, consulting my friends who are mediums and finding out what to do and how to handle it, I did, do a little, I wouldn't say ceremony, but I basically asked him to pack up and leave, and, I told him this wasn't working out and we'd have to break up. But he, but I was actually in Arizona, in Sedona, at the Vortex when I did this. And I said to him, if what you're looking for, first of all, I explained to him whatever he's looking for, I cannot give him. And I said, and if you think someone can help you, this is the correct place for that person to find you. So, we haven't sensed him, or I haven't sensed him, or we haven't picked him up since that point. So either it worked, like you said, it either worked, or he's hanging out in the background saying, I'm just biding my time. But that was profound to know that they really can follow you around and be a part of, not a part of your life, but in some way a part of your life. And there were a couple times that pretty much rocked my world, because the time that made me the most nervous was when I thought he was trying to interact with my grandchildren, which scared the living bejeebers out of me. Because I don't want that, let's put it this way, I don't want my work to impact my family in that manner. So, so things that happen that you can't explain are things that are going to continue to happen to us. But as you were saying, James, we have to protect ourselves, and we do pray, and we do go through a series of different things, and we too have been trained to protect and to shield ourselves and different things. Teresa and I both carry holy water with us. We both, I'm a big believer in crystals, so I always have several crystals on me. So there's all kinds of things we bring into play to try to protect ourselves from things like Mike attaching themselves to you.
Yeah, I brought a Chinese carpenter home with me once. And that's just because I was too tired to clear myself, and it was a long drive home, and I was just lazy, and felt really, really bad. He was absolutely terrified standing at the foot of my bed. The look on his face was, he had no idea what was going on once he got here. Mm-hmm. So I scooted him out the window the next day.
Oh my!
I use I use kind of the First Nations or the old way of doing stuff. If you look back at those things that the wise men brought when baby Jesus was born, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, frankincense and myrrh are what you would burn to increase the vibration in an area to keep negative things away. And you can still use that. I use Palo Santo wood, which was a South American wood that burns at an extremely high vibration. And it has a really nice smell. Native bands up here, tribes, use sage and cedar. It all depends, but they burn at a vibration that's very high, and it actually will push that other energy out. It's a higher energy than the energy that's here. And it's something I guess there are those people who have high energy themselves, shamans and some holy people. And I did meet a Pentecostal minister. Anyway, this guy had energy going through the roof, and he could move things out. But he was he said, I don't want to talk about this, and let's not talk about it in front of anybody who goes to my church. And okay. But his energy, he could walk into a room and push things out. And he was kind of an interesting guy, and I think that's kind of how he gravitated towards that, because he had seen a lot of things when he was a kid that he couldn't understand and couldn't explain, and he came from a religious family, so they kind of pushed him off in that direction. You need to go see God because you're thinking of evil things. And when he got to see God, he went, oh, heck, I can not only see God, I can see all these other people. So, yeah, so he's actually a really cool guy. But, so I moved him on. And the crystals, I carry some crystals. There is a crystal, and I can't remember what it's called, but never take it to a paranormal investigation because it pushes them all out. It starts with an S, and it's a big white crystal-y thing. Looks like quartz, but it's not. But I do carry...
selenite.
Selenite, yeah.
Talk about, yeah.
We went to a paranormal investigation, and this guy said, this place is extremely active. This was going on, and it was dead in there, other than the refrigerator open and shut, which I thought was weird because, it's a magnet. So how do you pull it open and then shut it? Anyway, but just as we were leaving after being there for 3 hours, I looked up on the counter in the kitchen, and there was a paper bag, and I saw sticking out the back of the paper bag, he had a chunk of selenite about 9 inches by 1.5 inches. So I thought, oh, great. We weren't getting anything because it was just sucking all the energy out. And it happened to be right beside where the fridge that opened and closed too. But you forget to ask people if they've hung a dead chicken in the back of the closet to keep the ghosts away or something. But I carry the tourmaline, the black one for keeping tourmaline from. Yeah, that's the one I kind of focus on for keeping people from sucking my energy out. But and my daughter,
it's a good protection.
Too. Yeah, so that's a good one. And then it's just invoking a prayer and some and getting your guides and angels to back you up. And actually, as a living person, we're a lot stronger than they are on the other side anyway.
That's what I feel, because when you were talking about all the lengths you were going to, I remember we were coming, and like you said, you get lazy and you're like, yeah, I do this all the time, who cares? But I remember I got in the car leaving, and it was the Lake County History Center again, and there was a little man in a brown suit in the back seat, and I was just really reasonable with him. And I said, you can't go with me. You have to stay here. I can't take you home. And that was it. I mean, it was over. So sometimes I think you connect with them on a different level, and I don't know if they can really understand you that well, but he was gone, and I never thought about him again.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the other thing,
I wouldn't like to wake up and see a Chinese man at the end of my bed. I'm sorry.
No, he was. We had been in a wood shop, or had been a wood shop back in the 1920s, where people worked on the boats in the fishing community. We were doing the investigation, and a very, very active investigation. And he just followed me home. Very, very nice guy. 20-some years ago, he was helping a little 6-year-old girl up the stairs, and she was asking her dad who this guy was, and he was there he had told her he was making a toy for his daughter. And she went up the stairs, and her dad had worked in this area, and she said, "Who's that man?" And described him and described what he had said, and her dad said, "Ooh, that's nobody that's around here, and we're the only two in the building." But she was 6. He didn't want to get too carried away on it. And now she's 26, and she's still going to describe the guy. And when I described, he was standing at my foot of my bed, and I didn't see exactly what he was holding, but he was wearing like a leather apron-looking thing, or maybe a canvas, but it was a light brown tan apron. And he had something in his hand, but I was just staring at his face. And he was looking at me over my left shoulder, like he was looking at something over my shoulder and absolutely terrified of it, which was probably my mother looking back at him. What are you doing in here? Giving him a look, because that's where my mom usually hangs out, is over my left side. But we've got all sorts of help for pushing these guys over.
Oh, I could see that come in handy years ago, before I was more skilled and knew more about protecting myself and taking precautions, and really wasn't taking it as seriously as I did now. I picked up some sort of negative energy entity, whatever, on a private investigation of a residential home, and we actually thought the investigation was quite tame as far as activity and things going, but man, I left that investigation with just like a bad feeling, and I had some sort of attachment. I don't want to say like a possession or anything like that, but I definitely had an attachment that wreaked havoc on my life. It affected my health, my mood, my luck. It was really horrible, and I did not know what to do. I wasn't really that tight with any psychic mediums that could help me. I was too afraid to say anything to anybody because they already thought what I was doing was goofy. But, I mean, talk about invading your dreams, your moods, making you sick. I was hearing voices, and it just, my luck turned to crap. I mean, it was really a horrible, horrible thing. And it took a long time to get rid of that. And I literally had to pray it away. And since then, I have learned more about, you know, what they are and what to expect and what I can do to keep myself safe and sane, and, you know, meditation and grounding and centering and asking your spirit guides and your angels and everything for help. That was bad. I mean, that was, you know, I mean, my marriage almost broke up. I was sick as a dog. It was really a horrible thing, and I don't care what anybody says. I know it had something to do with something I picked up that night, and I never want to bring anything like that home to my family again. I'm not like Kathy, who can actually see spirits sometimes. I mean, I can sense them, but I'm not a medium, a psychic. I can't see them like she does. I don't have that kind of skill set at this point where I can as easily communicate with them. So that was a horrible experience, and I never, ever want to go through that again. That was scarier even than, you know, getting my hair pulled or at Mansfield or being scratched at another place or, you know, being pinched. And we've gone through all of it. We've had it all done to us at different places. You know, that was really something quite horrible. Really makes you depressed and just zaps your energy. Just a horrible thing.
It empties you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing that what happens. A person like you and Kathy, who are, and really like Kathy, because her energy, okay, I'm going to go all woozy on you. Her vibration is higher than the normal person walking down the street. Both of yours is. Your energy is higher, so those with the lower energy, and those on the other side, want to just tag along with you and kind of get recharged, and it'll drain you, completely drain you. Just like those boyfriends you had when you were a kid that were real fixer-uppers. That when you finally broke up with them, it was a really long time before they could let go. They were always coming back because they were attracted to you because they were low-energy people, and when you broke off that connection, they felt really, really bad. You felt really good because the energy was all back in yours again, but they were just, you know, spiraling because they needed somebody else they could tap into. Which could also apply to post-puberty, when you had high anxiety, argumentative with your parents, and problems sleeping between 3 and 4. See, I'm a psychic. But yeah, but that's what happens. That is a common thing. There's 5% of the population who are like that. 65 to 70% of them are women. So, you know, it's just those people. You know, 300 years ago, you would have been the healer in the community, Kathy.
Ah, and I would have been the village idiot.
No, and the other thing you do is you get attracted to careers that would be a helping career. That is teachers, nurses, literally a maid, butler, bartender, waitress, doctor, anything to do with helping another person and having physical contact with another person. So,
and that's true.
Yeah, and that is just what we are as people with that higher energy. And it took me, I didn't know anything about it till 4 years ago. And it
what
totally
happened
explained.
4 years ago?
I went to a psychic who, I was going through this crap post-traumatic stress, and I went to a psychic out of the blue that a friend of mine that I hadn't seen since, you know, a grad reunion a year or so, or maybe 6 or 7 years earlier. And she owned a little metaphysical store, and she had psychics come in. And for some reason, I thought, I've never been to a psychic before. I'll go to that. And this is the girl who knew my mother's name. My mother's got a very bizarre name, was Lexa, L-E-X-A. And then I thought, well, now anything this girl says, I'm going to believe. And she went through all the challenges I was having at work and described to me how they were going to end. And they were going to be positive. And they all worked out. So now I'm not stressed. I left there not as stressed as I was when I went in. And then she also told me about what an empath was and energy and all that work. And it was the first time I had heard about it. And it was all coming true. And it was very, very interesting on how it all started to make sense after that. And the things that I had seen as a kid, the children who were in a car accident, the spirits of them and other shadows I saw in my bedroom and things when I was a kid growing up, and what I had run into at work as a policeman. And, I looked back on it, now that all makes sense. I wasn't imagining things or wasn't dreaming. So it all made a lot of sense. And so that's what I mean. It's only been in 4 years. It was 2012 this happened.
Wow.
And from there I got into paranormal investigating. Yeah.
So it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. And it's from that paranormal investigating to putting a Facebook page up and talking about it. And then Dave Scott, who started the show, called me up and said, had you ever thought about doing something like this? And I said, yeah, you know what? I had my own TV show when I was 18, and and I took radio broadcasting right out of high school. And he said, what? And I said, yeah, kind of weird, huh? So now he's got me doing this on the weekend. So it's again a learning thing for me. I love talking to people like you who have experiences and are also on that front end of wanting to know exactly what's going on out there and what is going bump in the night.
And being part of the people who accept it.
Yeah, and that was hard for me too. It's accepting what it is that I was seeing and what it was I was hearing from the psychic. And on that note, I'm going to take our last break of the evening and come back with Teresa and Kathleen. Kathleen. And you guys are the ones who are up at 3 in the blessed AM, and it's not even midnight for me. Be right back right after this.
Hi there. This is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on 2 mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. 2 mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott. Join me Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com, where we delve into all things paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial, crypto, and all topics in between. Come on by, take a listen, and tell us about your experiences. We are here for the answers you need. Spaced Out Radio, broadcasting right out of this world.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle. Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
With an ever-expanding listenership base, Spaced Out Radio is the perfect place for you to advertise your product. Our listeners support those who sponsor this show. So whether you're an author or a company, Spaced Out Radio is the perfect place for you. Our pricing is more than competitive, and your advertisements will be seen and heard every show. Head to spacedoutradio.com and advertise with us today. Contact us at info@spacedoutradio.com today.
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by spacedoutradio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you, Dave. We are back with Teresa and Kathy, the Haunted Housewives, for the final quarter, and we're keeping them up as they're out in Ohio watching the sunrise. Hey, you send us the sun from Ohio, don't you? That's awfully nice of you. Holy cow. We were talking about all things metaphysical, I think. We went from paranormal into empathic and all sorts of things. Now, Teresa was saying, Kathy, that you can actually see or have had the opportunity to see these things sometimes. How far does that go back? Was that back when you were a kid, too?
I think I knew probably as a kid or as a teenager that I was, that I may be empath, but I didn't know what it was at the time. But as I got older and I had more experiences, I just said it's because I'm highly intuitive or because I'm really sensitive, or I had all these excuses as to why things were happening. But the first time I really remember seeing a spirit was when I was on an investigation with Teresa. And we happened to be with a news team who was filming us. Like she said, people like to watch you ghost hunt. So I didn't say anything or do anything. And the minute the cameras were off, I was telling Teresa about seeing this man in the corner. There's a man over there, and he's trying to get my attention, and I don't know what to do. And, she's just looking at me like, okay, well, we got to get back on the news, so be quiet. But it was really weird, and it kind of shook me up a little bit. And, of course, what did I do as a historic researcher? I went home and started researching the place we had been at to see, why would this man show up there? And I found out that he was a former owner. We were at a furniture and flooring store, and he used to own it when it was a gift shop years and years ago, and he had not been recently deceased, but he was deceased. So I saw the former owner of a different store at a different time in that particular building who knew that I don't know how you feel, James, but they know you. They come to you because they know you're the one who's going to be able to see them or interact with them. And I think that's my first time of realizing he was coming to me because he knew I would see him and I would, acknowledge that he was there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
so
interesting.
It rocked my world. And since then, I don't see them all the time. I do. Sometimes I'll see a fleeting image, and sometimes I'll see a full-blown image. But most of the time, as you said, you sense them, and you can, in your mind's eye, see them, and in your mind have a conversation. But, I'm not one of those people who walks around talking to the air and saying, hello, Sarah, little girl, do you like dolls? And she answers me, and I say, why, yes, she does like dolls because she likes the one with the blue dress, I mean, nothing like that. I have a sense, and sometimes I use it, and sometimes I told her I have the sense of a rock. Because I don't sense anything sometimes.
Well,
but I still am cautious, as you said. I still am very cautious about making sure I don't get slammed by something I'm not ready to be, experiencing. So I do try to protect and be careful.
Teresa, you don't see them, but do you ever get the hair on your arms? I'm not saying you have hairy arms, but let's call it the hair on the back of your neck goes up.
Well, I mean, I have had an experience, like when I was little, I saw a ghost. I didn't realize it was a ghost because I thought it was a living person. And I have seen them in like shadow form and light form and things like that. But, and I can sense them, and I can sense just like the general energy of what's going on, like if it's something good or bad, but I'm in no ways a medium. But I do find, after all our psychic friends have been telling us this for years, you can get better at it, you can learn to do it, which I don't know if that's 100% true, but I think like any skill, you can open yourself up to more of it. So I do sometimes get impressions, and, I've seen shadows and lights like that, but I don't get the images like Kathy does. Sometimes I do. I'll get like a thought, and I'll have an intuitive moment or two, but not nearly what Kathy experiences. I wish, but that's why I keep her around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy, you go in that room first. If I hear you scream.
And you know what? As Teresa said, though, using intuition and her sense and my sense, we don't have to waste a lot of time because we'll be like, yeah, nothing going on here, let's move on. So it's good because when you're investigating to use your entire arsenal, because like you said, the TV shows are annoying because, they're relying on this equipment that many times is not designed for finding a ghost, a spirit, or anything else. And I just feel a lot of the time, as she said, we've pared it way down and we use our minds and our hearts and the sense that we have, as well as a flashlight and a recorder. Here we go. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's when it comes down to it too. You can, and I like what you said. You go into an investigation. There's three of you in a room, and after 2 or 3 minutes, you look at each other and say, "I don't feel anything here."
Right. Wait. First of all, there's only the two of us.
Okay.
Unless you're counting the ghost, there's only two. I know we saw the picture on your Facebook page, on the website with the three. We were a trio for a very short period of time because we did a TV show and we had to add a third, but it's usually me and Kathy. And so it's just really the two of us unless Kathy has a little spirit friend hanging out with her or something.
Yeah, I didn't put that one up. I put the one up with with you guys.
The cool one.
Ethel and Lucy in the cemetery.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
That one.
Yeah. That one looks good because there's a lot of personality in that photo, and it was just good energy in there. So I had to.
You know what? I always said it explains us.
Yes. You know what is also good, speaking of like intuition with me and Kathy, especially since it's just been the two of us working together, even though we work with other people, we are intuitive not just with spirits, but with each other. Like we know what we're thinking or how we feel, and we play off each other, and we can kind of take these. It's almost like we communicate without talking, which is kind of cool because we're trying to communicate with somebody that can't talk, and that's how the two of us communicate too. So it's almost like we're intuitive of each other, which I think is what makes us a successful team. So even though sometimes it's like some sort of bad comedy show.
I've worked with policing is one of those careers that people with higher vibrations end up going into, and if you do end up bumping into one of those people and they're at your office and you get along with them really good, but when you're actually focused on doing something, looking for something or investigating, like you said, you don't have to talk to the other person.
Right.
They will be doing A while you're doing B, and you really never had to set out a list of things to do, and it goes very, very quickly. Or interviewing.
We work that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do because it does help because we kind of guide one another in that way without having to even talk about things. And like, if we're completing this, we're just moving on. It's like we don't have to talk about it I really like it, except Teresa will tell people we're partners and people always get the wrong idea then.
Oh, yeah, those kind of partners.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Just that your husband kind of goes, excuse me?
I know. It's confusing.
She's my partner.
But
and
we are like
grandchildren.
partners.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
She's the Robin to my Batman.
Yes.
There you go. You complete me.
How come you're always Batman? Because you got to say it first.
I
right?
always wonder that too, James. Thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up. We can get on a much deeper note now.
Yeah. Who's in charge here? There's the dominant one, and then there's the other one.
Sidekick?
The sidekick.
Silent
yeah.
Bob?
We're both sidekicks.
Yeah. You're sidekicks for a greater spirit.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, I've got to throw these questions out to you because it's coming near the end, and I always do this. 15 minutes to the end, but what do you believe, and we kind of touched on this earlier, what happens to us when our meat sack no longer exists? Where does our soul, our energy, our spirit go?
Well, I kind of answered that already.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that our energy can splinter. Our soul goes where it needs to go. Our energy can splinter, and sometimes, it can choose to stay behind if it wants, or to come back and visit. But I think that I definitely think that it shatters or splinters or separates it to some event. That's what I think. And again, that's just my opinion. That's what I get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Same with you, Kathy?
And I believe in. I believe you can go into the light, into the loving arms of Jesus. I believe that, but I also believe, as I said, that the spirit is free and can come in visitation, or can, as I said, when I'm ready to fly free as a spirit, I will be in Bermuda, not haunting my bedroom. So, because it's really boring in my bedroom. So, sorry about that. That's for another show.
Yes.
But no, I just feel there's freedom in it. I believe in the renewal of souls. I believe that, so I believe that people are walking around who were walking around at one other time, including you, I, and everybody else. So you and myself, and, so I have a lot of different thoughts. I'm just really open to almost anything. I'm not set or I don't dig a hole and say, this is where I'm staying. So I'm kind of free in my thought process, and I'm always waiting for that higher consciousness that'll give me all the answers.
That's a couple more lives you have to go through before you hit that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. I did a past life regression, and I was absolutely blown away. But
I would love to have that done.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I instead of going in and picking or just saying like a past life regression, because I guess you're supposed to get the one you do get. Again, it's kind of what it's supposed to be. It's the one you get is what is relevant to what you're going through now. I actually picked a specific time, which isn't what you're supposed to do, but I did, and I learned a whole ton of stuff, and I want to go again to learn more about that specific. Oh, look at my arm. My whole left side just went fuzzy. All the goosebumps again. But it was very, very interesting. So that also affects, again, your belief system, or my belief system on things.
Mm-hmm.
Baby steps and growing into understanding not only different ways people are looking at death and life after life. I'm looking at opening that side up, and what you get into the whole conspiracy theory about, did they take the reincarnation part out of the Bible so the church could control people and threaten you with damnation and death or whatever, but who knows?
They did.
Yeah, so it gets into that argument, and that's kind of where I believe too, that whole male controlling everybody, and if we can't frighten them with internal damnation, then then they're not going to pay X amount a month to the church, or we can't collect taxes. Yeah, well,
that's true.
Yeah, and that again, it's an expanding belief system. And I hate to get locked into one. So if somebody comes up with if something comes up with another suggestion, then we'll move on. Like my priest who refuses to cross over because he thinks he's going to burn in hell. And I used to think, well, hold on, why would God sacrifice his only son for our sins if you weren't allowed to sin? Or was that only up to the point of the crucifixion, kind of an Old Testament sinning, and then we weren't allowed to sin after that. So, you get all the theories and religions, and I just go out there and try to talk to whatever's irritating the family in the old house. Have you guys ever been to a house that is relatively new and has active things going on, like a relatively new, like from the 80s on?
Oh yeah, I've done brand new condos that were haunted. A lot of times we find it's not the property at all. Sometimes it's the land. Sometimes it's something in the house that holds the energy, and sometimes it's the people. So I think that even though the old houses have more interesting history, the new houses can be haunted too. We've known families that have moved from house to house trying to get away from a haunting that's just followed them there and tagged along with them. So I don't think age really has a whole lot to do with it, but, we just prefer the older houses because they're more interesting to us.
Yeah, and it falls back on the history, right?
Mm-hmm,
unless you're familiar with the history of the land itself. Was it a battlefield? Was there an asylum here and torn down or burnt down in the 1800s and a new subdivision built? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Poltergeist. Was there a cemetery here that wasn't moved? So, and a lot of times,
honestly, all of the United States was an Indian burial ground at one point. So, this land is before the white settlers came here. This land was someone else's home. So the land itself was occupied by other people. No matter where you build, even if it's in an area you believe is a new development, is not. So. It very well could be the land. You never know.
Yeah, and a lot of times we would build a house overlooking a lake or on a nice hill, clear the trees on it, and build it. Well, that a lot of time the First Nations or the indigenous population would have buried people on a hill overlooking a lake, because that was, that's where they wanted to be. In the other side, so you end up putting your house on it. And, a friend of mine, David Oman, who owns a house next door to where
the Manson murder.
Yeah. He's got a native Indian hanging out in his basement who died. His horse went down one of the cliffs not too far from him, and the horse died, and so did the Indian. And eventually, there was a mudslide and went over top of him, and that's where he is. And that's who's occupying his house. But the energy in the bottom of that house is just unbelievable. Again, it's built on a big rock, and that rock goes right down kind of through a bit of a mountain, but into the ocean, and that ocean is whipping around there. So it's like building a house on top of an antenna. And he's got all sorts of things going on in there. The actor Rudolph Valentino was building a house across from there back in the 20s. He never did move into it, but he was always around when they were building it. Well, he had a psychic walk in one day who never knew anything about that. She walked in and said, there's a native Indian man sitting at the bar who looks like Rudolph Valentino, and a woman who has blonde hair. And David went, that's kind of freaky, because I'll tell you a history of the neighborhood here. The lady with the blonde hair we think is Sharon, and Rudolph Valentino's house was across the street, and the native guy, everyone sees him around here anyway. But very, very cool. Very very interesting house and filled with energy. And as we chip away at the hours here, and now that you're giddy and really tired, I get to ask you the other questions that I ask people with higher energy and who have seen ghosts. Has either of you, and remember, this is just between the three of us, has either of you ever experienced anything that you would call alien?
I have not, although I thought I saw a UFO once when I was little, but looking back, it was probably just an airplane. But at the time, I believed that it was a UFO. But I honestly 100% believe that there is life out there on other places other than our Earth. So I'm open to the possibility.
Okay.
My experience is similar to hers. I was on my way to Niagara Falls with my grandparents when I was a child, and I swear I saw something. And I didn't think it was an airplane, and, now that I look back, I'm sure it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel the same as Teresa.
Yeah.
I think there's something out there that's happening that we are just not on top of right now, or that we are hiding.
Well, you did go to Sedona.
I do believe.
Yeah, or no, it was Kathy went to Sedona. Yeah, or I guess both
I
of you
went
did?
to Sedona.
Yeah.
This is Kathy. I did go to Sedona, and I didn't see anything when we were in Sedona. In fact, we kind of watched the guys a little bit out there. But no, we were thinking about trying to go out to Area 51, but yeah, that's a long drive in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. In fact, the phone number you call in tonight is actually the area code is Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yes. It's cute. It's one of those questions I always ask because it's funny that a lot of paranormal investigators are people who have seen spirit or seen the energies of, we believe, that those who've passed, have also crossed into that other side where I thought I saw a Bigfoot, or when I was a kid I thought I saw a UFO, which both of you did see a UFO. It was unidentified at the time, and it was flying, and it was an object. But we always throw it was an unidentified flying object. Until later, I found out it was an airplane. But at the time, yeah. But was it a metal frisbee, or was it a cigar-shaped craft? One of the people I'm on a paranormal team with thought she was having paranormal activity in her bedroom, where she would wake up thinking the ghost had lifted her up and put her on top of her bed, and the bed sheets were completely ironed. And we did a paranormal investigation in there, and there was nothing. And then I kept talking to her, and I said, this is going to be a real weird question, Kelly, but have you ever seen a UFO? And she looked at me and said, well, I was out in the backyard once, and the kids were playing, and the family was around, and this big triangle came over the roof, and it was huge. And it was slowly flying and didn't make a sound. And I looked at everyone, and no one else was looking up at this thing, and it was, basically blocking out the sky as it quietly moved over the neighborhood and went north. And I said, okay, I think I know what's going on in your bedroom when you're waking up and out of the bed. And sure enough, she's we kind of confirmed through Dave Scott, who does a show Monday to Friday, and some other people that she's just being abducted. That's all.
Oh, that's all.
She and her daughter.
No big deal. No big deal.
No big deal. But now she's paying more attention to the dreams of these very tall, blonde people that appear to her in these recurring dreams. And Dave set up a little thing where he said if you put 2 coins or 2 poker chips or 2 cards on the side of the bed and you put it out to the universe, the energies, and say, if I am taken out of my bed at night, before I go back into bed, either have those around me stack those or let me do it. And there's been a couple of times she's waken up with those weird dreams, and the cards are one on top of another.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think when I was in Mountie training, I used to have to iron my bed every morning, and I didn't remember that. It's like, ironing. Have you ever ironed a bed? Have to get up in the morning, iron your cot, make your cot, and iron it. Discipline. I
That's
hate discipline.
crazy.
Yeah, that's what we said quietly to ourselves. 32 guys living in one big room, snoring and having to iron our beds in the morning when the bugle sounded. Maybe I should go be a policeman in the States. Yeah, you get shot at every day, but at least...
You don't have to iron your bed. No.
No, and it was funny when I first got married, my wife said, you really clean up well. Like, every time you used the sink back then, you'd have to clean it and dry it. Like, every time you used it, you'd afterwards clean the entire thing out, dry it, like no one was ever there. So it's just a habit.
My husband was not in the military.
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah, this is just a leftover. And the other thing, we had, it was the one that's carried over. Oh, pushing your chair in from when you get up from the table. That was the other thing we had to do. And if you didn't do that, you had to go to see the Sergeant Major at 4 p.m. and you could lose your weekend. You have to be confined to the base for the weekend for not pushing your chair in.
Wow.
Anyway, this has been really interesting. Talking to you two, really appreciate you giving me the time, Kathy and Teresa, staying up in the middle of the blessed AM. I really hope you can both sleep in Monday. Or is Monday gone already? Oh, no.
Oh.
Again, we're with Teresa RG. She is the original haunted housewife. Please look for her book, America's Most Haunted. And you can go to their website, hauntedhousewives.com. You can follow the link, and you can find her book on, probably Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. Kindle.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's on Kindle. Look at that.
Yeah.
America's Most Haunted, The Secrets of Famous Paranormal Places. That would have been a fun book to look at. And Kathy Weber, the Ghost Lady, she operates the Willoughby Ghost Walk and has written a book called The Willoughby, or Haunted Willoughby, and that's Haunted Willoughby, Ohio. I almost said Oklahoma. Don't go to Willoughby, Oklahoma, because she's not there.
There's only one Willoughby in the United States.
Oh, and I didn't get to talk. I forgot to mention or ask you about the Willoughby Coal. Drat. Yeah,
awesome place.
Because that would be very, very cool. Very, very cool. And again, her book, Haunted Willoughby, Ohio, and it's through Barnes and Noble. I'm the one who's tired. Please go to the website, hauntedhousewives.com, and check out all their little links and stuff. Now, what is it you have? You've actually got something for sale on your website. What is that? Is that an apron?
Oh, we have cute little aprons that you can use to investigate, and aprons you can just wear around your kitchen. They're adorable. So we utilize what we know as housewives in our investigation, and aprons have pockets, and we need pockets. So there you go.
Oh, you gotta have one of those. It's better than one of those like little flak vests, those guys who run around and do paranormal investigations with all the Velcro on them. I'd rather have an apron with some stuff.
Aprons are way cuter.
Better pockets and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, get to sleep, both of you, young ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Don't make me come over there. Take your phones away from you. Yeah. You have a wonderful night. And again, thank you very much. Teresa RG and Kathy Weber, Haunted Housewives.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Young hearts will stop. Torn souls set free. All that we have is now. If this is what you want, then come to me.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.
Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing as they go, what are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Because somebody hide, somebody better hide. Through the hail, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. get you dead or alive. And forget yourself. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after now. Run through the hail like a patch of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you dead or alive.